Ooh, nice little thing going. Ah. All right. We're back again. We're back again. Mic check, mic check. Make sure the audio is good. As people start pouring in, we have a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about. Let me see what the numbers looking like. Yeah. All right, good. Welcome back, everybody. This is Real Nathan Daley, and I am your translator. I'm here to provide some insight on some difficult topics, current event issues, the drama in this country, issues involving police. And this is the perfect time. This is absolutely the perfect time to have this type of conversation. You guys don't know, I've been wanting to have this conversation for a long time. You guys heard me speak about these issues on the channel. And we have a special guest tonight. I'm going to bring him up in a little bit, but I want to give you some behind the scenes action and stories and perspective before we bring him up, because this gentleman is a wealth of knowledge and he's doing the work in real time. What type of work are we talking about? Activism. Activism. And a lot of people don't know about this. And I think this is important because I've ran into people who do this work in real time, you guys. They are called First Amendment auditors, for those who are not familiar with it. No worries. We have a trailer we're gonna break down and dissect. I have a video that I want to show you that went viral out here in Atlanta, my own hometown over here. He came out here and put some work in and exposed something that requires discussion. We're going to be talking about a lot of things involving policing, the policing issues, the root of the issues, and then what things he has observed doing his craft, you guys, the craft of activism. So shout out to you guys in the chat as you roll in. Please hit the like button. We're going to go over a couple things. We are on our way to 20,000, so I'm really excited about that. We were making some good progress, you guys. This channel is only a year old, and the people have spoken. The people say they want more of this information. They want more Nathan Daley. I'll try to give you the best I can. There's been a lot of things going on behind the scenes. The channel has been evolving. As you notice, you guys, little admin work. We have our memberships our members have badges now. The badges look really amazing. We also have our merch shop. Our merch shop just came out. The merch is good. I keep my Facts Over Feeling mug right here. You guys, I'm really feeling it. So I plan on putting on the merch, doing a little model session for you guys, and I'll have that stuff for you so you can see the quality. Put everything out that you guys asked for, and then some. We still got some new designs on the way that I want to add to the shop for you guys to check out. So please, at the bottom of this video, you should see the merch section. That's for us. And a lot of this could not have been done without you guys. So thank you for your unwavering support through the good, the bad, and the ugly on this channel. There's been a lot going on. What else? So if you haven't already, please go to the following social media platforms. Please follow me there. Everything is Real Nathan Daley. For those who are unfamiliar, you can go there and just, subscribe, join, because I use Instagram as well, you guys, to kind of send out alerts and notifications to let you know when I'm going live or dropping a very important video. For those who were here last night, great stream. We had a great, amazing guest that came through, Mona Lisa. She was giving us some behind the scenes look at the courts and the corrections from a probation standpoint. A lot of good information, very passionate. We had a great stream. So she dropped a lot of gems. So where are we? Oftentimes, you guys, I have these conversations about policing, break down body cam footage of officers, and I give you a very neutral perspective and a very nuanced situations that take place. We know officers make mistakes and we know they're not perfect, but unfortunately, this is a type of profession where you need to be as perfect as possible. And I say that for a lot of different reasons. I think it was Chris Rock who said that there's certain jobs You just have to be good at it. There's no excuses. No one cares. They don't want to hear it. You guys, policing is one of them. You just can't be good at this job. You have to be great. A lot of people in this profession, they take pride in putting on the uniform and say, yeah, I wore the uniform. I did this, I did that. But if you didn't wear it with any integrity, then it doesn't really matter. It's just a cloth. It's just a piece of cloth with a piece of metal on the side. One of the things that I've come in contact with working with officers, ego. Whew. Ego, pride, ignorance. Of course, I've met officers who should have never put the uniform on, people doing the job for the wrong reasons. You guys, the list goes on. But then I met officers who were amazing, who had the right heart, the heart of a servant, humble, respectful, diligent. They moved with integrity. Some people say there's not enough of those. I say there's not enough of those just in society, period. But I think at the end of the day, the people have spoken in reference to what they do and they do not want, what they will and what they will not tolerate. The problem with policing is it's a lot of power. A lot of power that has been handed off to some imbeciles, some complete imbeciles. And nobody is addressing that. It's almost as if we care more about in the profession the quantity over quality. When you have media doing hit pieces on law enforcement, there's truth to be said in some of these hit pieces. At the same time, it has created low morale for the country, low morale within policing. And then now they're forced to go at the bottom of the barrel to find applicants to do the job. And at the end of the day, what is a police officer? At the end of the day, it's deeper than just doing the job. It's way deeper than that. Once you go past the uniform, you go past the vest, there's a regular person in there. I tell people all the time, how do you know what type of officer you have? You don't. You don't know. And there lies the problem. So we're gonna talk about these things. We're gonna talk about a lot of things. We're gonna talk about the vetting, what we have out here, what he has seen out here. We're gonna talk about what he recommends should be good changes. The reason why his voice is so important, you guys, mind you, he's gonna explain to you what he does. But I'm telling you, it was a priority for me to get him to come and speak on this channel, him and others like him who do this work of activism. Because when you're actually doing a particular job and you're actually investing into something and you're doing research into something, you start to see the truth. You start to see where the real issues lie, right? That's why I feel confident coming over here and having these conversations with you guys. I actually did the job. And I actually did it for the right reasons. And I've seen a lot. So I can come back and explain to you where I notice issues that need to be addressed that are not being addressed. His perspective is going to be insightful. It's going to be insightful. So, get your questions ready. We have some clips. I'm going to play a quick little clip before I bring him up. Because I want you guys to see. And listen, some of us have experience with the police, right? And again, when we have these conversations, unfortunately, today is the day to get on police officers. Today is not the day to brag about how good they are or the great things that they do. We know those things to be true. Today is a day we bring some smoke to the profession. Because there needs to be times when we are able to criticize and point out and address things that need to be addressed. Today's the day. Some people can't handle that. I can handle it. So we're criticizing the police today, and no better than have a person who audits, someone who makes sure that our constitutional rights are being followed, they're being respected, and that they're not being trampled upon. You might not like it, but I'm telling you now, the work they do is important. And I think it shows a couple things. It shows how we, the people, have relinquished so much of our rights away. And it also shows how easily we are deceived by not knowing our rights, even the people who are supposed to enforce to protect them. So I'm gonna play this quick clip. This is how I came across him. So I think, and shout out to the brother, I'm gonna bring him up shortly. Prove All Things Audits. He's in the back. He'll be coming up shortly, guys. I have a link to his channel it's in the description. If you just hit the app button, it'll take you right there. Please go out and check his channel. You will enjoy the content. I'm gonna pull up a clip. This recent clip he did, or incident, was in Sandy Springs, Georgia, right next door to me. And he was near in front of Cardi B's house, and the police, they called the police on him. Security called the police. I'm going to have him give the whole story, but I want to play this clip. This clip went viral, 7 million views. 7 million views. Man, I love it. I get a chance to sit back and watch this, but let's play the clip. And I'm going to point out a couple things to you that I saw immediately when I first saw it. And I said, oh, I got to reach out. I got to reach out to this brother. But let's go ahead with the clip.
What's going on, gentlemen?
Hey, officer. Can I get your name and badge number?
Sure can. 337, sir.
Your name?
You don't get my name, sir. By our department and my chief, I don't have to give you my name, only my badge number, 337.
All right.
Fair enough?
Fine. That's how it is. Yeah.
Okay. That's how it is, sir.
Nope.
All right. Listen, just that quick. Just that quick, the officer destroyed this encounter. He absolutely ruined this encounter within 0.05 seconds, you guys. Now, the gentleman who's recording is our guest today. All right. He's a First Amendment auditor. He goes out and he makes sure people are honoring and respecting our rights, even police officers. And oftentimes when he's challenging these places, the police are called. He challenges the officers on their knowledge of the law, and our rights as citizens. This is activism, you guys. If you're not careful, the same rights you think you have, you really don't have them. You feel like they're there, but then they're never respected. So the police get called. He's in the neighborhood, and he asks the officer for his name, which is public record. What did he say? I don't have to give you that. The problem with a lot of these officers, they forget who they're supposed to be serving. You are a servant of the people, whether you like it or not. The ego, you can see the ego in his walk. Now, shout out to Sandy Springs. I love those guys over there. But again, we are criticizing tonight. This is constructive criticism. Bless his heart. We mean no offense, but we're going to call out the bullshit. We're going to call it out. He tells this man, I don't have to give you my name because my chief said so. Now, right then and there, you've already created a wedge and a disconnect between the people. You come to the scene assuming that the person you're talking to is the bad guy. And even if he was the bad guy, giving your last name is not a violation. So, very cocky, very, very arrogant. And then this piece. This is how you break communication between individuals in this uniform.
by our department and my chief. I don't have to give you my name, only my badge number, 337.
All right.
Fair enough?
Fine. That's how it is. Yeah.
Okay, that's how it is, sir.
No problem.
That's how it is. Woo, woo. This is what people have an issue with. When I hear complaints about policing, this is the guy they're talking about. This is the guy, you guys. This is him. This is the poster child for I can't stand the police. This right here. The look, the walk, the way he breathes. You could tell he's going to be a nuisance. You could tell he has tyrant vibes. The arrogance, and then the nerve, the audacity. Yeah, that's how it's going to be. Whew. Wow. This is the ones they talk about. Let's proceed.
Okay. You are in the roadway, which is against the law, and if you don't live around here, you're loitering and prowling. Do you have a? Are you local? I don't. Do you have any journalist friends?
Loitering and prowling. If you don't live around here, that's not how the law works, and that's not even what the law says. If you don't live around here, you're loitering and prowling. He's. What's the other issue people have with police officers? Not knowing how to do their job properly. Making assumptions, stereotyping, being racist, being bigoted, being disrespectful, being unprofessional. I mean, the list goes on. Being overzealous, power, tripping, God complex. He is saying if you don't live around here, you're loitering and prowling, you guys. That's false. People are always in places they don't live around. Doesn't mean they're loitering and prowling. Already off to a bad start. Part 2. Let's keep going.
Hard on you by chance?
Do you have any journalist credentials?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well,
Hard on you by chance?
do you have any journalist credentials?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm fine with that. But you just said you're a journalist, so I'd like to see some kind of credentials to show you're a journalist.
Well, I don't need to provide that.
Well, you just said you're a journalist.
I am.
Well, I'm a space astronaut.
Interesting.
The sarcasm. This is unprofessional, you guys. This is disrespectful. Right? And again, it's not warranted. It's one thing when you're dealing with a real crime, a real criminal, a real incident, and you guys are going back and forth with some verbal, a little verbal dispute. You know, that's one thing. I can kind of give that. All right, both of you guys are going back and forth. All right, you're entertaining the foolishness. Okay, I get it. This was not warranted. It's not warranted. But it gets worse. And this is what, now I see these videos all the time, but this right here, you guys, this is what got me interested. And this is a reflection of why these conversations need to happen.
I have a First Amendment right to walk down the street and record.
Now, First Amendment right does not authorize you to walk down the street. First Amendment is freedom of speech, sir.
And it's also freedom of press.
That is the Third Amendment. Second
Third
Amendment.
Amendment is no soldiers in the home.
Yikes. You guys, some of you may have missed it. Let me run it back. Some of you may have missed it. They're talking about your amendments, your rights. The First Amendment, they get into a discussion. Well, it's not even a discussion. Our guest, Shannon, he says, listen, my First Amendment right, freedom of press, freedom of speech. And he says, oh, no, that's not your First Amendment. That's the Third Amendment. You guys, this is a problem. This is the biggest issue, one of the biggest issues. Education. The lack of could you imagine if an officer doesn't even know the actual rights he's supposed to be protecting? How can he defend or protect or not trample on your own rights when he himself doesn't know them. You guys, this is a problem. Do you think he's the only one? No. No. There's thousands of them who are not only willfully ignorant, but imbeciles by nature. You guys, I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it. And it's unacceptable. Why? Because this profession yields so much power, so much authority. I tell people all the time, you want officers to be counselors, to be therapists, to do all these social issues within communities, and they can barely get the basics of the job correct. Their foundational job, they struggle to get correct. Why put more on them when the basics they struggle with? You guys, this is supposed to be cop 101. This is elementary in nature. This is unacceptable. And listen to what he says. I'm going to play it back. Listen to what he says.
Freedom of speech, sir.
And it's also freedom of press.
That is the Third Amendment. Second
Third
Amendment.
Amendment is no soldiers in the home.
Now, Second Amendment is
right to bear arms.
Okay, so I'm not going to get in a debate about amendments with you.
I'm not going to get into debates. What? Sir, Post should strip you of your certification, remand you to 6 months of education that you have to pass a collegiate level course on constitutional law. Period. Send them back. This was an embarrassment to the department. This was an embarrassment to the chief. Why do I say that? Because the moment he stepped into the scene, he threw the police chief under the bus. He threw him under the bus. I don't have to give you my name per the police chief. If I was the chief, I'm like, sir, that's not how this works. Right? You have a citizen asking for you, give him your damn name. You know, I can imagine that is only there for criminal cases when you're dealing with a real crime and you don't want to expose your name to the criminal at the scene. But at the end of the day, you guys, we're public servants. It's public record. Your last name is all over the place. It's not going to change a damn thing. If you give a person your last name badge number, because you didn't give it at the scene, it makes you feel more empowered. No. If anything, it's causing more of a rift between the community. This is one of my law enforcement shirts right here. Guess what? Daley is on the shirt. There's no way around it, you guys. There's absolutely no way around it. But listen, I can talk about this all day because it's an amazing conversation to have. I'm going to bring up my guest tonight, and we are going to have an amazing conversation. And we are here to criticize. We're here to call it out. It is what it is. I have some law enforcement officers who watch the channel. They respect the content. They see the truth. Listen, if your feelings are hurt, bless your heart. Because the facts don't care about your feelings. Without further ado, bringing up my amazing guest from, y'all gonna love this, Prove All Things Audit. Bring this brother up. Yeah.
Shalom.
That's
Bless you, brother. Thank you for having me on your show. I think you do an awesome job with your show. I'm a fan. I've watched some of your content. I love the delivery. I love the way you do it and present it. Seems pretty fair and balanced in my opinion. So thank you. I'm honored to be here, and look forward to this information we can share with your audience tonight. Absolutely, man. First, and thank you for responding to the call, man, and having being willing to have the conversation. I really admire the work that you do. I admire what you stand for, and I admire the activism. I think it's necessary, it's needed. And you guys who do this work prove that it's important. My thing is,
When I decided to do this movement on YouTube, I wanted to rope in a lot of First Amendment auditors because I believe you guys' voice matters a lot because you see it firsthand, and you've created awareness on social media platforms exposing these things. So when people are talking about reform, if a First Amendment auditor is not at the table, you're doing this piece a disservice, in my personal opinion. Who better to talk about what needs to change in policing than those who are auditing? Essentially, this should be a paid profession, in my personal opinion. And we're going to talk about it based on my views that we need civilian oversight throughout the criminal justice system. And who better to do it than those who love constitutional law, those who love our rights. These are the people who need to oversee. I'm talking about constitutional junkies. I know some junkies out there where they're shooting the amendments up in their vein. They need it. You know what I mean? You know, you guys' voice matters, and it needs to be. I'd prefer you and others like you overseeing this system, man, because you're going to be fair. You're going to be fair.
Well, if you think about it, you know, there's auditing in a lot of aspects of life. Like if, you know, for your taxes, probably the first thing that comes to people's mind if you mention the word audit is the IRS auditing tax returns.
Right.
That is a way to keep people honest people honest, so to speak.
Yes.
So if you look at the policing situation, there, to my knowledge, there is no agency that goes out and makes sure that the police uphold our constitutional rights. There is no secret, well, not secret, but there is no, undercover, if you will, agency that goes out and audits the police departments to make sure that our rights are upheld, our constitutional rights.
Right.
Nobody cares as far as the government goes. And the only accountability that they have that we can do is when the citizens take a camera out and they go around and document what the police are doing and actually hold them accountable as citizens, because there is no agency to do it.
Right.
There just simply isn't.
No, and we rely, I think a lot of citizens end up relying on is the federal government, and then they need auditing themselves as well. So we rely on the DOJ, and we think the DOJ is the end all be all when it comes to cases involving civil rights violations. In actuality, we need something before that, right? Like you said, the goal is to prevent, you know, not necessarily react. And what we do oftentimes is we react to a violation after all the pain and sufferings are already occurred, where these things could have been caught a long time ago. You have officers who are, if you look at their record, they show signs of they not just signs, but they've already committed several violations and they've maintained their job.
It's lack of accountability.
Yeah.
Imagine if a police officer pulled you over for speeding, and every time he pulled you over just said, slow down, and let you go. That was it. Now I get it. There's warnings out there, but let's just imagine every time, every person only was told to slow down. No ticket, no court date, no fine, nothing. Just slow down. We would have a lot more speeders out there.
True.
You know, I mean, so these police, the reason that a lot of officers have this attitude that they have is because there's lack of accountability. There's qualified immunity all over the place. And even, you know, people just don't understand their rights. They don't understand how they can fight back. A lot of times it falls on deaf ears if they do make a complaint. A lot of these police departments don't even bother responding to complaints issued against officers. They don't even give you a response. I've had it happen myself multiple times. And you have to basically call them and beg them to get any type of response. And it's usually really vague. We dealt with it. Well, what'd you do? Well, we got it. We can't talk about it. That's private information. That's we can't discuss the disciplinary actions, if any, that have been taken. And this type of mentality just leads to a breakdown with citizens. You know, citizens get tired of being, put, just shelved like that and not taken seriously.
Yes. This is
one of those citizens.
Yeah, I mean it's true. You know, it's true, man. Boy, we're about to have a crazy conversation tonight.
Oh, we gonna get into it. I got a lot whichever direction you want to go. I've been there.
We're going all the directions.
Real quick, just something that happened today, real quick. I'm working with an auditor out of Pennsylvania, just to give you an idea of the kind of thing that frustrates me, and it put me kind of in a bad mood today. I'm trying to get records from Hazleton, Pennsylvania, regarding a police officer that attacked an auditor that walked in to get a police report, and he attacked him because he basically was dismissive to the auditor, and the auditor, as the cop was walking away, called him an a-hole, and the cop turned around, came back through the door after he was already leaving, and physically assaulted the auditor. Okay, so I'm trying to get the body cam footage of this incident, and I wanted that as well as any other incidents regarding physical stuff. Guess how much they're trying to charge me to get four body cam recordings at Hazleton, Pennsylvania? Just take a guess.
$100.
$720.
Nah, that's illegal.
And they said that underneath the statute, the guy wrote it to me, they can charge a reasonable fee.
That's not.
That's what he's calling reasonable. $720 for four body cam videos. That's what they want.
No, that's illegal. That's against the law. I mean, because again, it does say reasonable fee. You know, they would look at that. For those who don't know, this information is public record. So when you go and you want to request an officer's profile, like say you want to check me out, and you want to see what type of stuff I did, you go to my police department, you say, hey, I'm requesting an open records request by law. This is your right to do so.
Right.
You go in there, you file the paperwork, and guess what? There's a fee for it. And the fee has to be reasonable. So you might pull documents, say there's 40 pages of my police profile at the police department. Well, what's a reasonable fee? It's going to be maybe 5 cents per copy. Even that sounds like a lot, but 5 cents per page. Because basically they are printing these documents for you to have. So they're incurring a fee, and then that fee, they're probably incorporating the labor fee because this is outside the school. So whatever. Okay, that's cool. 5 cents per copy. That's what they charge you. You walk away, you pay maybe $4, $5. Sometimes I've paid up to $10 getting public records. That's reasonable. $700 for video? Nah, no, absolutely not. On a flash drive that costs $10.
Yeah,
you know, so the most it should probably cost is $30, and that's for the hardware needed to put the actual body cam video footage on. It might range maybe 3 to 4 or 5 gigabytes at best. They get one maybe 50 gigabyte flash drive. You put all the videos on there. You upcharge me for and you keep it moving. No, that's ridiculous. And you can go to court for that and knock them over the head. That's a lawsuit.
These are the tactics that they employ, though. I mean, they're making it what I would call cost prohibitive. You know, you can get, they want to comply with what they call the Sunshine Act. You can get the records, but they, $1 million each one. But they're open. They're available.
Yeah, they're available.
Just $1 million each record. I mean, I actually already filed a complaint with the overseeing board of that today, and I'm going to fight that. And I'm waiting for a response from the right to know officer out of Hazleton, Pennsylvania. But just showing you the kind of annoying things that happen when people try to hold the government accountable, because it all boils down to accountability. Why else would you want body cam footage of any officer? It's because you want to hold them accountable in some way. And by them doing this crazy pricing, what are they essentially trying to do? Not be held accountable.
Correct.
So these are the type of reasons, these are the type of things that happen that motivate me to go out. People talk about the Cardi B video. They go, oh, if you were standing in front of my house, I would be pissed off, and you're a creep, and they have all this negative, not everybody, but some people have negative perspectives on that situation. Let's say, well, you got to go watch the whole video. Don't just watch the short. Go watch the entire video for context.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like reading the word. You gotta read in context. If you pick out little snippets, man, you can get jacked up. You can make things look totally wrong and screwed up.
Right.
You have to read it in context. So just like that video, you got to watch it in context, and you got to see why I went. Did I go there because I'm fascinated with Cardi B and Offset? No, I don't care about either one of them. I went there because somebody told me that they have an aggressive security force that will come out and approach you on the street.
Yep.
And tell you to get off the street and beat it. And I said, well, that can't on a public street. They said, yeah, public street. I said, well, I'm going to prove all things. And that's why I went there. And that's the whole purpose and the gist behind that video. It wasn't to harass anybody. It was to prove a point. It was that you should be able to walk down a public street anytime you want, take a picture of anything you want without armed men coming up threatening you.
Right.
This is supposed to be the land of the free. Well, damn it, it sure don't feel like it sometimes.
No, it does not. It's this country has gotten really good at creating the illusion of freedom,
Exactly.
making you believe that you're making the decisions that you want to make for yourself, and in actuality, they've coerced you into making a decision. Now, tell the people. Well, go ahead and really introduce yourself. Tell them about your channel.
Okay.
Explain to them what you do. And what does it mean to be an auditor? Just to kind of, so people get the gist before we dive into this. This is going to qualify you to have this conversation. And I know people are going to be flipping over.
Well, I've supported the auditing community for years before I started doing it myself. For many, many years, I've sent equipment, gave donations. It's just something that I'm passionate about. All my life, I lived in Denver, and for a long time, and I have so many memories of just walking down the street, being messed with by police, pulled over for just nothing reasons. Like cops would say, oh, it looks like I had a bullet hole in my car, or my tent was too dark and I didn't even have any tent. Just the craziest stuff where I looked suspicious and just frisked and stopped. And that kept going through my later years in life, where I would, not as bad as when you're younger, but still being targeted. It just at some point you get fed up. And I remember I told myself, hey, one day I'll have the means to fight back. This is way before the internet existed, before any of this stuff that's auditing channels and everything. I said, if I have the opportunity to make a difference and somehow reach back to the people that are young, like I was at that time, and give them, sorry about my camera, I'm just trying to, but anyway, if I could reach back and give them some knowledge and help them prevent this stuff from happening to them, I would do it. So then I decided to finally do my own channel. And for those that aren't quite clear on what First Amendment auditing is all about, the First Amendment has 5 elements to it that are important, that most cops couldn't even tell you if you asked them. But the one that I focus on the most is the freedom of press. And that's where I basically go around the places that I should be allowed to take a picture or a video, and to make sure that I'm respected if I do that without being harassed. If you watch the Sandy Springs video, you'll clearly see the police use multiple tactics in order to scare me out of my rights. So in reality, the police should come there, see that I'm not breaking the law, I'm on a public street. And in reality, they should tell the people that called, sorry, but this guy's not doing anything illegal. Just let him be. But that's not how it goes down. Is if you watch the video, you'll see they tried to accuse me of stalking, harassment, loitering and prowling, blocking traffic in the street, all these different tactics which is the reason I do this, is because it shows how the police will use intimidation, they will use coercion and lies to stomp on your rights. And it took me literally standing up for my rights and telling them, no, I know that's not, you can't do that. You can't. Another guy said, you need a film permit. You know, when's the last time he pulled somebody over for taking a picture with their camera and told them they need a film permit? But he was just seeing what would stick. You know, he was just what can I say to this guy to get him out of here, to scare him? I want to scare him out of here because we don't like him recording around this celebrity's house. And I expose that. I show that clearly on my channel. So that's why I do what I do, is because of my past experiences with police abusing their power against me. We don't want to start talking those stories because you don't have enough time. I mean, we'd be here till tomorrow, but I've had enough of them to make me passionate about doing this.
That's what's up. Nah, well said, well said. Let me give before we dive into that, let me give a special shout out to this brother here. Nate says, I'm glad you have the heart to have this conversation. I have a newfound respect for you, Officer Daley. No, thank you. This gentleman, we had a quick discussion last night on the previous stream, talking about policing and police accountability. Thank you so much for the super chat. He's in Colombia, I think. I don't know what that number is, but you know, I appreciate it.
Like a lot of money.
It was like a mile. So we take all funds over here. We don't discriminate. We don't discriminate on the currency.
No. No, it's probably not that much, but you know, the currencies go. Either way it goes, it's about the heart, man.
There you go. I appreciate you sending this. You know, no one ever likes to talk about what police do wrong. We always want to talk about the good things that they do. Like anything, there needs to be an examination. There needs to be oversight. I'm going to just dive into it. Based on your experience, what are and we're going to talk about qualified immunity. We're not going to hit that one yet. That's a good one.
All right.
A lot of people always asking about qualified immunity. That's one I think we're going to have a good debate on. I want to get your thoughts on that. But what are the top issues that you see in policing that absolutely need to be addressed, that you don't often hear people talk about?
Well, kind of what you tapped on earlier, just the beginning of a big iceberg is just the fundamentals of knowing citizens' rights.
Yeah.
It just shows you how much of a spectacle. I mean, it's almost like it's a joke, like it's an episode of some kind of prank or something, the way that cops go up there and they swear the oath and they go through the motions, and it's just like a formality. Most police don't understand what your rights are. And I get it. People kind of, you know, may think, well, does it really matter? It's more like just a little formality. You know, they parrot back what's told to them, and they never have to actually memorize it. And it seems almost like, oh, that's 1776. It's outdated. It's kind of, you know, but it does matter. For example, like recording in public. If you have an officer who doesn't understand that you have a right to do that, and he shows up because somebody called on you and they're uncomfortable being on camera, if he doesn't understand that you have a right to be there, his reaction and conduct is going to not necessarily be in your favor.
True. And
so it's important that police at the very beginning understand what it means to have free speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, right to petition your government. They need to understand what that really means in actual application, not just obscure words written on a piece of paper a couple hundred years ago. They need to understand what it means today, in this year, right now, in the present, what does freedom of press look like? What does
Mm,
freedom of speech look like? Can we charge them with disorderly conduct if it's freedom of speech? Where do we draw the line at?
yeah.
And that's kind of like the first building block. And then once you get those building blocks established, then it will quickly line up other things. But if police are allowed to run carte blanche and just do whatever, I mean, you're going to get chaos.
Yes.
That's exactly what we're having now with a lot of the police. I'm not anti-police whatsoever at all. I think we need police, good police. I'm all for it. We need police, and thank you for the good officers out there. We're not an anti-police organization of any type. I give good police props. The problem is there's very few of them to give props to, because there's so many of them that are out there trained to go for blood, so to speak.
Yes.
You know, there's civil asset forfeiture, which is a whole nother can of worms that's still going on, that's not been abolished, even though they tried to kind of quell it. There's some cities and municipalities still going full bore, taking people's assets from them without justice, which is also a violation of the Constitution. You know, you're not supposed to be able to take people's property without their day in court, so to speak.
Right.
And it's happening right and left all over this country in different places. It's sickening.
Yeah. It's easier to abuse the rights of a criminal than it is a citizen that hasn't committed a crime. And I think that's one of the problems with policing. You see officers and even the system feel more confident when a person has violated the law to then almost trample on their rights even further. It's almost like it's kind of like it gives you an excuse to do so. I've seen things like that transpire where people feel like there's justification in violating a person's constitutional rights simply because they committed an act of a crime. But then doing things like that blur the lines, and it makes us no different than the people we're supposed to be protecting, right? So my thing is, I've had a couple encounters with First Amendment auditors, never had any issues with them. I have issues with those who, there's a difference, and I think like anything, you have some people who they're not really there for the right reasons, auditing purposes. They're there to agitate an officer, and even though the things they're saying is right, they use a lot of their cursing.
No, I know those auditors very well.
Yeah, I think there's the type of auditors who are trying to make sure the rights are being followed properly, and there's auditors who try to provoke officers by way of, you know what I mean? I don't have an issue with those guys either, because at the end of the day, what they also end up exposing are officers who are too sensitive for the job. Officers who, and I don't agree with those methods, but I'm saying this also comes back to training, where because someone is refusing to ID themselves because they didn't commit a crime, you now take it personal and now want to be aggressive. And now the auditor he smells blood. And when these guys smell blood, they go in for the kill, right? And they're calling you all kind of names and things like that. And there's some officers who spaz out, end up grabbing them and doing things like that. And obviously you touch me, you prevent me from going to and from, you just violated, you committed a crime against my person. You violated my Fourth Amendment right, and then boom, they got them. It's like a snare trap. So you do have guys who go, they make good money. They're very good at this. But to me, I like the exposure because it shows that we have an issue with officers out here who are unable to discipline their emotions. They have no self-control over their emotions. And when you have an officer who has no self-control over their emotions, what you tend to have is an officer who will abuse his power or will enforce the law through his feelings, right? And that's the problem that I see. I also see with you guys unprofessional officers, just like we played in the video in Sandy Springs. When did you know that officer was going to be a problem? Walk us
when he got out of the car.
Yep. What was it about his energy that you noticed?
Well, I mean, you saw the nature, the lack of eye contact, the way he walked past me.
Yeah.
And kind of, had this attitude. I mean, it's very smug.
Yeah.
You can tell he's just probably the cockiest officer I've seen. He wasn't the worst officer I've seen, but he was extremely arrogant and cocky.
Yep.
And as soon as he got out of the car and he just had that, that walk, 10 feet tall and bulletproof walk.
Right.
And I mean, I'm not saying that's the smoking gun that he's a horrible cop. I mean, no. I looked into his record and everything, at least for the last couple of years, because he came from another department. He's not a bad guy, but he definitely was a little uneducated. They did kind of pick it up as far as their professionalism once they realized what was going on. Some officers go the other direction, and they dig themselves a deeper hole.
Yes.
And then some officers have enough sense to go, oh shit, let's back up here. Let's throttle back off of this guy. Like when I left there, they didn't follow me, but I've had some officers follow me. And they just stoke that fire. They just keep it going because they don't know when to back off. And they don't realize, you're playing with somebody who's going to expose everything that you do. You probably should just leave me alone if I haven't broken a law.
Sometimes I tell officers all the time, sometimes it's okay to just apologize.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes I've been in situations where I was wrong. And I'm like, oh, man, I'm sorry. Listen, no disrespect. I apologize. Here's information. And
you're a big man to do that.
Oh, I mean, when you're doing it for the right reasons. When you're wrong, you're wrong.
That ego does not like that. And most officers, I've seen them actively defend points that are indefensible.
And they know they
just fight it out. It's such as like somebody getting an ID from somebody.
Yes.
Especially a passenger.
Yes.
There's so many officers that want it so bad because we know how the game goes because you want that prize.
Yeah.
You're trained to get that prize. You want that felony warrant. You want that drug bust.
Yeah.
You want something to bring back to the department.
The table. Yeah.
And so you can't get that without running names.
Yeah.
So you want to run all the names you can. You get a car full of people, man. It's all about how we got 5 people in here. We want 5 ID.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let's tell the truth. Even though they have no legal right
to
those, you got the legal right to the first ID of the driver, of course, if they committed a traffic infraction.
Correct.
Now, if we're talking about an attempted bank robbery, then you have the right to everybody's ID because they're all in cahoots.
Correct.
But if you just have tail light out, you don't have the right to demand. You can ask, of course, but you cannot demand the ID of the other passengers of the vehicle. There's so many officers that violate that on a daily. And they'll ask about it, and they'll coerce, and what do you got to hide? Well, step out of the car. And they start intimidating and scaring the person in the car who's never done anything wrong. No violation, and because they want that ID so bad. Yeah. And that's the problem that we have is it's like a cognitive dissonance where you have the police on one hand that are sworn to uphold your rights, but they are incentivized to violate your rights. If you think about it, that's exactly what happens. So if they have to trample on your 4th Amendment right to get your ID, then a lot of officers will do that, even though they're sworn to uphold your rights. But you have a 4th Amendment right to be secure in your papers and effects, your identity and everything if you're not suspected of a crime. So in a way, why would an officer even ask? If you think about it, why even ask for my ID if I haven't done anything wrong? If I'm just a passenger in a car with the taillight out, why are you asking? You get what I mean? No, but it's not illegal to ask. We get it. I know it. But it still just kind of shows how that slope starts to get a little slippery because they're incentivized to get that warrant or that, whatever.
Yeah, and you're absolutely correct. And I always say it's one of those things where it's like the "I fear for my life" quote. You know, like that is a universal quote to justify all things. Um, it's like telling a child or letting a child know that if you cry, then you get whatever you want. You know,
Right.
and what ends up happening, that child will, even when they're not really crying, they'll cry because they want to get that end result.
Right.
This is the problem that I see with policing. And this is why it's hard to legitimately take what or why the words of officers now have gone untrusted, because now they will use certain language. I think it's an echo. You got YouTube up in the background on yours?
No, I got your the live. I'll turn it down a little bit. Let me see. I got where I can hear you.
Okay. Oh, that's better. You can hear me still good?
Yeah, I can hear you. I
Okay.
can put on headphones if need be.
No, you're fine. I think it was just the feedback, but
I'll turn it down a little bit more.
I think the problem that I've seen is that people no longer are trusting the words of an officer. When I first started, it was still there a little bit. It was still there. And then body cam footage came out. And then people are like, hold on, officer, what you put in your report is not lining up with what we see on this video. You know, hey, officer, what you put in this report is not lining up with what the witnesses said. The job went from officers don't tell a lie and they have integrity to damn officers are lying too damn much, to where now we can't trust them. Now we need
with the Rodney King video, to be honest with you. That video ushered in the era of digital transparency. Way back then in what, 90, 89, 90, whatever that was, that ushered in the accountability of police action. Because if you can imagine, without that footage, that footage has a different impact. I mean, just think about George Floyd. If somebody were to tell you what happened, it would, okay. But man, seeing it and hearing him gasping for breath and yelling for his mother, and it's another thing. That camera has a power that cannot be understated.
That's
or
true.
Overstated. I'm sorry, but it just does. So that's why it's important to get out there and film. I encourage anybody watching this broadcast to always film interactions with law enforcement. Always, and it doesn't mean that you're trying to catch them or be mean to them or anything like that. It just means you want to have a clear record, and hold them accountable for what is said and what is done to you at that stop. And if you see somebody else stop, and you got time, record them from a safe distance. Don't antagonize officers. You watch my audits. I don't go out and call names to officers and start stuff like some auditors do. That's just not my style. I like to show interactions reasonably. And I know if I go up to an officer and call him, all kind of disrespectful terms, it's going to be a different style of audit. But at the end of the day, they're human, and I can kind of go, well, you're asking for that style of audit.
Right.
I think it's a better audit for my style when I'm calm and respectful, but assertive on my rights.
Yes, absolutely.
And I just show, hey, as a decent human being that's peacefully exercising his rights, how am I treated?
Correct.
That's my style.
Yes.
And I'm not knocking other auditors that are more aggressive. I'm just saying that's not me. I think it makes for a better audit doing it the way I do it.
I agree. And let me say why I agree with that concept is because when you are doing everything you're supposed to do correctly, it's easier to expose where the real and who the real problem is.
Agree.
When you come out here and you try to insult or push boundaries, or you make a scene unsafe for an officer, because even if you mean well, you can make a scene unsafe just from your presence being too close. Now, you then give the officer leverage to now come and address you in a way that you don't want to be addressed. Because officers, we have the power of articulation. And if I can put 2 + 2 together, then the law is going to be on my side as an officer.
Right.
So you have to, when you're cool, calm, and collected, it works in your benefit. The officer can't say you were in a threatening manner. The officer can't say that you were obstructing justice. The officer can't say that you impeded in their investigation. The officer can't say that your boisterous or your irate behavior made him feel unsafe, and therefore he had to come and detain you. Because see, all these languages, some officers are very good with words. We can be word wizards. I know I'm a good word wizard.
Right.
But I use my words for justice.
One thing on that note, Nathan, is a lot of officers abuse that distance.
Yeah, of course. Yep.
To stop people from recording. You know, I've seen it happen multiple times where somebody is on the other side of the street and officers go, hey, you know, we can't keep an eye on you and an eye on them. Why don't you move over here, go over there, step back over here? And they try to control people in public to make themselves feel safer. And that's when you start getting in that fine line between an officer manipulating somebody that is having freedom of press and recording in a area in a vantage point to where they can see what they're trying to see as well as hear what they're trying to hear. If they're pushed back 50 feet from that point, then obviously that diminishes what they're able to record. Right. And I think without a clear boundary of, let's say, 10 feet or some actual number, 10, you know, this distance from the officer is good, then it becomes subjective. Correct. And then, of course, you get officers that say, well, that next block over is where I feel comfortable.
Right. Yeah, it's a very ambiguous term.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you know, games are played. And I think my experience, there are times where you have an experience with a person and they ruin it for everybody else. That's been my experience dealing with some auditors. I never take it personal. A lot of times, my experience, one I remember vividly, is a church called because there were a group of protesters holding up signs against the church. And they called me out. Now, I don't like dealing with that kind of stuff because I know it's not criminal. So to me, it's a waste of time, but they want us to go out there just to kind of, you know, appease the caller, especially when it's a big church and they are connected, right? This is a big, well,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, this is New Birth. So this was politics. This was a political call. So I go out there. I know what time it is. So I know the affiliation with the church to the department. So I go out there. I see the guys out there. And immediately I step out the car. Oh, here they come. They want to violate my rights. And I'm on public property. I'm on the street. I'm not on. I walked up to him. I said, hey, man, I didn't even say anything to you guys. You're already complaining about something. I said, what's going on? Oh, I need your name. And first thing I said, I need your name, badge number. I'm like, cool, not a problem. You know, here's my card. I said, what? Why would they call the police on y'all? What's going on? Well, we're protesting, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, I heard that you're shouting stuff at people driving by. That's what the church folks are saying. We're not shouting nothing. We're just exercising our rights. I said, all right, cool. Well, you guys have a good day. Please stop being annoying. I got my car and I drove off. And that was it. I said, stop being annoying. And as I'm walking away, Officer Daley, we appreciate you for respecting our rights. I said, not a problem. I said, stop being annoying, though. And I drive off. You know, my thing is, you have people who come out here and they purposely irritate the public. I get it. And that's,
sorry to say it, but that's legal.
It is legal. It is. It's not against the law
to
be annoying, right? It's not against the law.
Right.
So I'll tell them that. Then I get in my car and I drive off. I don't get into a pissing contest with people who are exercising their rights. I just don't. You know, and I think what tends to happen, what I've witnessed, is officers take it personal, like it's an attack against them. And they start trying to enforce the law through their feelings. And
you know, let me tell you a good example of that is when there's an accident. When there's a car accident and somebody's injured.
Okay.
you will see that very point that you just made come out in spades.
Mm.
Officers will defend the scene if there's somebody that's hurt. Like, y'all forbid it's like a child or something.
Yeah.
And somebody comes along with the camera. Oh man. Even though it's legal, you'll have officers just, basically want to body slam the person that's recording because they hate it so much personally,
I don't know where that came from. I started policing before we had body cameras. And I remember when they first started talking about doing it, I wasn't excited about it. And then after a while thinking about it, I said, well, I'm listening to other officers talk about it. There were always a few that were like, oh, I'm not putting that on, and they don't need to see. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why is there an issue? Why would there be and I just started thinking about it. I said, it really doesn't matter. I said, if anything, it helps me because I get lied on in this job. As officers, people do. You have citizens that do lie on you. The body camera has saved me from so many complaints. And I just like, hey, check my body camera. A complaint comes in because someone didn't like the way something happened, or they felt like you were being unfair, or I'd be like, check my body camera. I love the body camera. I absolutely love it. And I feel like to this day, for departments who don't have one, I feel like that's a problem. I think it says a lot. What are the other, if you could change anything outside of, we're talking about education for police officers, you touched on that. What's another issue that you've experienced that you feel like needs to be corrected in this profession of policing that you've witnessed?
One of the biggest changes that I could see that would be the way that the police handle complaints. And what I mean by that is, if you had a judge that was overseeing, let's say her son got a DUI, or his son, or whatever, a judge's son got a DUI, and that case came on the docket for that judge. Ethically, that judge would remove themselves from that case. Ethically, they would say, this is a conflict of interest. I'm not going, whatever. I can't oversee this case. I'm going to pass it off. This actually happens, where this type of thing happens, and they say, hey, this person's a relative of mine, or something. Ethically, I'm supposed to remove myself from the equation and pass this to another judge. It happens all the time, because it would be a conflict of interest for that judge to rule on their son's murder case or DUI case or whatever it is. Because I mean, come on. So I think that's the fundamental problem with the police structure right now, is because the same people who are overseeing the discipline are their coworkers.
Yes.
I mean, there's an officer that had a DUI in Aurora, Colorado, and he just got off of it because the police, the chief said it's a stressful job. And of course, once it got out into the public, they had to backtrack that. But it took somebody like me it wasn't me, but it took somebody like me to expose it. And that's my point. So what I think would make an effective change would be if the department didn't handle their own complaints.
Yeah.
If another department oversaw, and it was a neutrality where they didn't know each other, they weren't coworkers, they weren't buddies, they didn't have to face the person that maybe had to pass a judgment they didn't like on them every day, because there's a lot of politics. So I'm sure as an officer, a lot of politics in policing.
Yes. So
that's the fundamental problem, is you're asking the police to police themselves. And that's why we see such a lack of accountability. If there was another, I think if it rotated, if it was like, if the complaint went to another random organization, or at least another random police department, and they were neutral, they had no vested interest in anybody in the department, that would be a step in the right direction. But then again, you still have police officers looking out for police officers.
Yes.
So really, if you just had an oversight committee that looked over that was neutral, that would start to make a change and just totally abolish this idea of internal affairs where it's you have to walk into the very place that has violated you as a citizen and talk to these officers that you're scared of or intimidated by in order to seek justice. You should be able to go to a separate entity and say, hey, look, this is what happened to me. Here's what I have. And then of course the police officers that are involved should be able to come and say their side of the story, and then have that independent committee determine if there should be if it should proceed or if it's unfounded. That's what I think should happen. This whole lack of accountability would start to get resolved really quickly if it was done that way.
First of all, I think I've always said that we need a citizen oversight. I feel like that needs to cap, who's above the chief. The citizens are. The power should not stop at the police chief, because I understand how the policy works. I understand how the politics work and how the power works, the power dynamic in policing. And you're absolutely correct. I've never even looked at it from that perspective that you're speaking from, which is why I'm happy you're speaking on this, because ultimately what you're saying is the person who's been violated has to go to their violator. You know what I mean? And then
they will use that tactic to intimidate. There was an undercover story in Florida where an actual legitimate news channel sent an undercover person to different police stations asking for complaint forms. And it was, they dressed him down, made him look kind of, hippie-ish, and and he went in and just asked for complaint forms, and you would be amazed the intimidation tactics that happened. There was even one department that grabbed him and put him in a jail cell. And then when they came in and they had the cameras and they exposed what was going on, that it was an undercover investigation, the officer said he just did it to calm him down. But they actually would follow him outside. They'd record his license plate. They would threaten him and scare him, all when he just went in and asked for a complaint form.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube. It's now hard to find. It was down in Florida. And it just goes to show that even at the beginning, even before you get into whether they look into the complaints properly or not, the system is flawed right there, because that's making that person go back and go into the mouth of the lion, so to speak.
Right.
And there's a lot of people who are just terrified. They're not going to go in there. And then some police departments require you to get it notarized, which is a hurdle for people that may not have the ability to drive or to get around easily. So that's another deterrent, if you will, for transparency. It just goes on and on. So it needs to be a totally separate building, totally separate people that are not officers, but have the power to control what goes on.
Yes.
Neutral. It would be like if my brother did something to your family, and then the justice was our family decides what happens to my brother. That's what happens with the police. That's the exact same scenario. Our family's going to decide what happens to our brother over here. That breeds the problem. It's broken from the beginning.
So then my thing is, we all know this to be true. Some deeper, some more than others. Why is it so hard to get these things changed? Like, from your opinion, like, why is it so hard? People are experiencing these things. I'm gonna give you my thoughts, but I'm curious to know, why do you think something as simple as just transparency is a uphill battle?
Because you have the people who are already in power and in high places that don't want to see the change. And they fight it actively. That's why, because they're already in that position. They have influence, control, and any type of movement that is a threat to their way of doing things. See, right now, the structure is kind of where they want it. So anything that comes along to knock it off course will be met with resistance. There's a lot of money, power, and politics behind that.
Yep.
So you could have the most sound idea ever,
Mm-hmm.
but for it to gain traction and get over the hurdles of that resistance is another story. And I think most people would agree what I just said about a committee exclusive, not just, I know there's committees here and there and across the country. I get it. I mean, totally remove the police from overseeing themselves. Have a committee exclusively of trained, qualified people that have power, that listen to both sides and determine if it should proceed to a criminal charge or some type of discipline, or let them decide based on their training and knowledge and their neutral standing what should happen from that complaint, if anything, because I know some complaints are unfounded. True indeed.
Right.
But I think it's toxic, absolutely toxic, to hand that form to another another sworn police officer and hope for the best. When you're talking about his buddy, you can imagine how many of those complaints go straight into the trash can. You know, from people that don't know any better. I've had that tactic used on me before, and I've learned if you ever make a complaint, get a signed, stamped copy of that complaint. Don't ever just hand it to them and walk off. And because they'll be your best friend. We'll call you. Oh yeah, we'll look into it, and then that's it. It's over. You know, I've had it happen to me. Centennial, Colorado. Believe me, I've had it happen. So
it's there's. How do you, from my experience, what I see is there are some police departments that act like they are their own militia group. They are their own dictator. And I've seen it more with sheriff's departments and some rural areas where they'll tell you, I am the law of the land. They become the law, right? They think that they in some twisted way, the psychosis behind people who get so drowned in power. There's too much power in this profession for there to be no oversight. In my opinion, I don't think there's oversight. And your point, internal affairs is not oversight because the overseers overseeing the overseers. So you're keeping everything in-house, and we're hoping that you do your job properly, that you hold people accountable. I think, unfortunately, gone are the days where we can blindly trust the police.
Down south is extremely bad. I had some auditors tell me straight up, avoid Louisiana and think they said Arkansas, if I remember right. But you know, there's some state. I mean, I've seen it. If you just watch enough of these videos, you'll pick it up real quick, especially down south. So just imagine if you've gotten away with that for decades,
so long,
and you have people that don't know their rights, they don't know, they don't know, they literally believe the sheriff is the law. Whatever the sheriff says is the law. I used to think that police can speed on non-emergency call, like they can just drive however they want, they can just do whatever they want, they don't have to wear a seatbelt, they can talk on their phone, they can do whatever they felt like. I didn't realize that the law applies to them too. Under a lot of situations. Obviously they do have some power and liberty when it's an emergency and things of that nature, but I think a lot of people don't understand what the scope of the police power is. Like, if these videos are helping expose that, because a lot of people didn't know, hey, if you ask for my ID, I don't have to give it to you. Or if you ask for consent to search my car, I can say no. I don't have to be scared into saying yes. And that's a big deal. But man, these sheriffs that you're talking about, and these rogue police departments, the reason they've gotten to be that way is because of years of lack of accountability. It has a compounding factor. So their predecessor got away with it, and their predecessor got away with it, and it just becomes this
culture.
Yeah, culture, exactly. And that's what you see when you have these sheriffs and stuff that you can say, hey, I have the First Amendment right to do this, and they straight up tell you, I don't care.
Yeah,
Get out.
Not in my county.
Yeah, not in my county.
Not in my county.
I've seen auditors get told to leave a city.
Yeah,
I mean, that sounds like something from the 1800s, but they tell them, get out of my city. Like,
literally, they'll tell you you're not allowed here. I had a suspect I arrested one day, and he said the judge trespassed him from the county. I didn't even know that was possible.
They get away with it.
God, dog. I'm like, yo,
they get away with it.
I didn't know that. I didn't even know. So this brings up a perfect good segue. You're familiar with this. I'm gonna pull up this news clip. I want to get your thoughts on it.
All right.
This is regarding, and this is perfect what you said. I've seen officers get fired behind this. I've seen officers written up for it. I myself have been written up for this. You know, listen, you guys, I don't mind keeping it real. You know, my business is personal, right? My thing is all my acts at the job are public record. I don't need to lie, pretend. Listen, I've been written up for this. And I'm gonna tell you what I've been written up for. Y'all gonna be like, you guys, outside of that, I was an amazing cop. So you don't have to worry about it. You're not gonna find nothing too crazy in there besides me going the extra mile. But let me show you this. And I want to get your thoughts.
All right.
On this right here. Pull up. Okay. All right. For those who have not seen this, this interaction has gone viral. All right. This is in Florida. Talking about the sheriffs now. Florida is a very unique state when it comes to police. We talk about there's this territorial thing that goes on with police officers. We have it here in Georgia as well. I can imagine it's the same across this country. You have, and the reason why I like to call it like a militia, like they're their private army, is because they act like gangs sometimes. You have these officers, these departments, they act like, hey, this is my territory. You are running laser, checking speed on my territory. I've seen officers get into it. Hey, you're not allowed over here to be running laser. Sir, it's a public, oh, you're ruining my speed trap. You have officers like, these are things that you guys don't see. That you have departments that bump heads with each other for political foolishness that go, it's stupid. And all of it has nothing to do with serving people.
No.
There are people who get into this profession and they lose their minds, you guys, because they can't handle power. They can't handle power. And I'm gonna go ahead, brother.
Real quick. Yeah. I've seen videos where cops pull each other over repeatedly in the same night. I've seen that. So
children, man.
Yeah,
some of them act like kids.
Yeah,
some of them act like kids, and again today we are pointing out the foolishness. I've seen it. We've all seen it. This is the elephant in the room. We have cops who are grown adults that act like kids. And they act like kids. Could you imagine someone acting like a child holding a grenade or the codes to a nuke, right? Essentially, that's the power police have. They're walking around juggling grenades without pins in them. That's all it is. And you're praying that you get the one who stops you is the one who's a good juggler. Because at the end of the day, they all got a grenade in their hand.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of this job.
A lot of power.
A lot of power. A lot of power. And the amount of power that police have, the accountability doesn't match. And that's the issue.
And the training doesn't match.
And
let's be real. The training doesn't match.
Training doesn't match. the training doesn't match the amount of power they have.
The attorney has to go through a whole lot more to pass the bar. An attorney doesn't have a gun and a taser.
Now, hold on now. A barber has to go through more training.
Was it 2 years?
2 years.
Yeah.
A cosmetologist.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, to your point. To cut hair, breaking skin, dealing with chemicals, you got to go for 2 years. You take an officer with a whole bunch of power, freedom to be judge, jury, and executioner now.
Yeah.
Guns, rifles, tanks.
Yeah. It's scary.
Man, it is.
But they need bodies, and they know they're going to get less bodies the higher you put the bar.
Yes.
It's gonna take more money, time. You're going to get less bodies. It's a business. Policing is a business in a sense. You know, it's all about bodies.
Well, and before I play this video, let me say this. To be honest, if we scale back policing and we remove 80, my vision or my view, 80% of the calls, 911 calls, types of 911 calls that officers are dispatched to, 80% officers shouldn't even be handling in the first place. So if you just scale back on those 80% of calls that they frivolous or social issues that officers are responding to that they have no business responding to,
like barking dogs and stuff like that,
man, a lot, too many.
Yeah,
too many. Even I would say even traffic stops.
Right.
You remove that. You would only need less officers to deal with more serious, I call, what we do call the 7 deadly sins. I believe officers should only be responding to matters of the 7 deadly sins or felony related crimes.
That's
outside
right.
of that, you're not needed.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? And so
I get it.
The amount of 911 calls officers are dispatched to, you just increasing the citizen encounters. If I'm not mistaken, they said almost 90 million 911 calls go out annually. 90 million, approximately 90 million. Over the course of any year, approximately 10 million people are arrested by the police. That's a lot of citizen encounters, a lot of citizens encounters. We need people who are working from a perspective of social services to respond to a lot of these social problems. A lot of the real criminal offenses that take place, you have some officers that are not even good at doing that, which is essentially the foundation of their job. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I look at reducing. By reducing that, you can focus on quality.
Yes.
Focus on quality. You get what I'm saying? Because the quantity is surely here to appease the public, to make the public think that they're safe, because you got a lot of police going around there answering all these frivolous calls. No, you should have a public service unit handle these calls. Hey, this, that, and the other. And if the police are needed based on whatever, then the police show up. But we're going to dive into that. Let's play this video. Let me get your thoughts. This goes right into what you were just saying about cops pulling cops over. This incident went viral, and I think it's the perfect time to talk about it.
All right.
So you guys, for those who aren't familiar with this happened just, I think, like last week. But let's Seminole County Sheriff's Office. The audio should kick in a little bit. So the officer's driving, and he pulls this gentleman over, another police officer, for speeding. I think this is just the dash cam, so we're not going to get any audio until they get out of the vehicle. Oh, well, there we go. So obviously, if you guys missed it, the officer already flew past them. I don't even know if but the fact that he's trying to catch him, let me just go back so you could see. Like this video is running, so I should have pulled the Now the internet want to act up. This is how YouTube does me when I'm be calling out the DA. This how. Wow, look at that! Ain't this something? Wow.
I'm gonna have to tell you about a nice little downloader.
Yeah, I'm about to do it right now. Actually, let me while I'm downloading that, and a lot of times too, I don't like pulling up videos on StreamYard because I always like to have the video already. But let me I think because it's trying to pull internet data, you know how that works.
The bandwidth.
The bandwidth stuff. All right, here we go. Let's see if it works. If not, I'm gonna download.
You really sign your name like that? That's gorgeous. If you do, I'm just saying.
You like that? I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that.
You really do that?
Nah. That's my You know, they'll tell you as officers. Well, when I was coming up, you're supposed to have 3 different signatures. One that you use strictly for police work, and then one for your personal. But yeah, that's the one I use for any police work stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a smooth sound. I took time practicing that.
Mine is not legible at all. So
they said the most intelligent people have the worst looking signatures. So that
I heard doctors don't write very good. They're pretty smart.
No, they don't, man. They don't. Oh, they scribble scrabble. Yeah, I'm gonna pull the video. But while I'm working on that, I will while I'm working on pulling this video, it won't take me long. Let me see. Always pull this video real quick while that's downloading. It'll be easier to play it straight from the stream than stream it. Always something. What is this? Boom. All right. Boom. Take that. All right. Back in business. Here we go. All right, y'all. Let's take a look at this. Okay. So just that fast. All right. So we're gonna break this down. You know, people, don't realize, but officers have sometimes they have the lasers on like the dashboard, so they're able to catch speeders coming and going. So that's what I'm thinking. He clocked this officer. I don't remember how fast he's going, but let's check it out. Look how long it takes him to catch up to him to give you an indication of how fast he's going. All right. Woo! Can't even feel.
He's booking it.
Dang.
He's booking it.
And you guys, listen, I've been written up for speeding. And you know what we had at our department? My department was so big on accountability. We had a chip inside of our car's computer. And if you went over a certain speed limit, 80, I think it was 80 miles an hour, it would trigger an alarm and send an email to a lieutenant.
He's the guy that wow.
And the lieutenant will call you in the office and say, hey, on this day and this time, he does an audit every so often. And they'll question you about it. And I got questioned before. Didn't realize, going so fast, didn't even realize I was on the interstate. And I tripped the alarm, and they pulled me in the office. I got written up for it.
Dang. Pull over. This is crazy. You gonna pull over?
Please say a command.
Pull over.
Say a device name like phone or USB. Main menu. Say a command.
You gonna pull up?
Audio always.
Don't tell me there's just a.
Okay,
Okay, here we go.
3113 to 313.
So you guys, he pulled over the officer. You see how fast he was going. This is the actual physical encounter that they're actually having.
What? I am going into work, my man. Why are you trying to pull me over as I'm going?
Because you're going 80 and a 45.
I am going into work.
Okay, what are you going to work for?
What does it look like I am dressed for? What does it look like I am dressed for?
My name is Deputy Hilton, and they see your driver's license.
No.
Okay. 3113, copy at 1050.
Wow.
10-4, I got a city, Orlando PD taking off from a traffic stop. It's going to be X-ray Foxtrot 6207, XF 6207. You refuse to stop.
Woo! Listen, a lot of people don't know, but the sheriffs outrank the city cops. The sheriffs outrank the city cops. You got to know your hierarchy in this job. What are your thoughts?
I want to say 2 words that I know are probably going to not sit well with some people, but what comes to mind is sovereign citizen. Because that's the definition of a sovereign citizen, is a person who doesn't feel the law applies to them.
Yep.
So if this officer is flying down the road because he's going to work, not on an emergency call, he didn't even try to lie and say he was on an emergency call. He just said, I'm going to work. I can drive 80 in a 45 or whatever he's doing. I mean, that is a person who honestly has not had to have any accountability and is just arrogant and cocky and doesn't care who knows it. Because, he was aware he was being recorded.
Yes.
But he's so comfortable because he feels nothing's going to happen to him. He should have had a look of, oh, man, I'm sorry, man. Brother, I didn't realize I was going that fast. I'll slow down.
Yep.
But he knows he will not, he thinks he won't be accountable. Maybe these kind of videos make a change in this situation because it went viral.
Right.
But generally speaking, he's comfortable.
Yep.
He's comfortable breaking the law because who's going to tell him that he can't? Who's going to challenge him? And that's what you see. That's why you see the behavior that you just saw, is because he doesn't feel he's going to get in trouble for driving 80 in a 45. Who's going to tell him he can't do it? This is the product of lack of accountability. It's just yet another example of it.
Yep. And to long story short, with that situation, his department fired him. They fired him as they should have. Not only is it a stain on that department, but again, this is an eye opener. And citizens are saying the exact same thing. Why are officers feel like they are above the law? We're not above the law, you guys. We're not. I just told you, I've been written up for speeding, and there were accountability measures put on us. If you can't justify why you're driving at that speed, you're gonna get in trouble. And again, that's not the true for every police department. But this is the thing that we're having this conversation, that there's a lack of uniformity when it comes to policing. There is you got some departments that do a better job than others. You have some departments, and they could be right next door to each other. You got one department that does an amazing job, another department that does a horrible job, and they will let you know they do because they do not care. There's something about accountability, man. When you don't have it, when that is not there, it creates chaos. It absolutely creates chaos. He got fired.
Human nature.
It is human nature. It is human nature. He got fired. Everything you said is true about that ego, that arrogance, that I can do what I want to do. I'm a cop. We have cops over here. We have Georgia State Patrol. We call them God special people. They are known for locking police up. They're known for writing police officer tickets. One could argue that they are the accountability for the cops. You get pulled over by one of those, a lot of cops are on their best behavior because they know that GSP does not care. They don't care about your grandma. They don't care about how you had a hard day at work. If they catch you speeding in the state, you're out of here. They catch you DUI, you're out of here. They don't cut favors or anything like that. So they're like the anti-police. You know what I mean? They're like the Batman of police.
But the question becomes, will they do that to a fellow Georgia State police officer? That's the question.
That's true.
Because they could be against the city cops, the city police in one fashion, but are they really that way toward each other? That's the
That's a
question.
good
I don't
question.
know. Maybe they
I don't
are.
know. I don't know. That's a good question.
But that would be the test. The test isn't between the Atlanta PD and them. The test is if you got two of them.
That's
How do
correct.
they behave?
That's
How do
correct.
they discipline their own? Do they
Mm,
cut any favors then?
that's
I
true.
bet you they do. I mean, just from what I've seen, there's going to be some favoritism.
There's gonna be some. You know, we had an incident with a coworker at my job where anytime we get in an accident, and we do this amongst different departments. I've done this, investigated accidents. If you're an officer and you're involved in an accident, we call for another agency, a third-party agency, to come and investigate for transparency purposes. Again, there are some departments who do it right, man, and there's a lot that do not. And the truth be told is there needs to be uniform change, and it needs to be consistent. You should be able to, it's almost like, well, I always say this. It's like being a Christian, walking to a Christian church. I should be able to go to any church and get the same treatment. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's not the case a lot of times. So let's get into the nitty-gritty.
All right, let's go.
Qualified immunity. Qualified immunity. That is a key. Qualified immunity and police unions. Those are the things that people bring to me the most. I have my thoughts on qualified immunity. I want to get yours, and then I want to dive into some questions and notes that you have that you put together for us to kind of unravel. I say we just go ahead and start with the meat and potatoes, baby. Qualified immunity.
Well,
what are your thoughts?
I know why it's there. Okay, if you abolish qualified immunity, there's already a deficit of police. There's a lot of departments are hiring police. You see the signs everywhere.
Yeah.
We're looking for good people. You know, they're trying to get more police officers. It's getting a little bit harder to recruit police. And if the qualified immunity takes away a fear factor for the new recruits and the current police, because it gives them that sense of comfort that I can go out, do this job, and not have to worry about getting sued because I shoot somebody or some other act happens.
Right.
I'm not against police having some layer of protection.
Okay.
I just don't know. What I think is the current qualified immunity, the way it's written and the way that the laws are, it's too protective, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's too broad and overreaching.
Okay.
To where you have an officer that, well, kind of like the video you just watched, it becomes a shield of them, carte blanche to be arrogant, to violate people, to just do things that common sense would tell you shouldn't be doing. For instance, an officer driving 80 miles an hour cannot reasonably say he didn't know he shouldn't be driving 80 miles an hour.
Right.
The point is, he didn't feel he would be held accountable so he could get away with it.
Correct.
And he was so arrogant, he just drove off after he got stopped. That just shows you the level. He didn't even sit there to hash it out or to come to a conclusion. He's just like, I stopped just to tell you. He only stopped to tell the other cop, screw you. That's the reason he stopped. Just to get the message across and then leave and go off on his own accord. That's what happens when there's no accountability. So I think that there should be protections for police that literally are in a situation to where reasonably it's determined that okay, he shot the person. It was unjustified in the end, but in the heat of the moment, in this situation, it was dark. Take all the facts of the case and don't just have blanket qualified immunity, but have protections in place for police to not be sued or targeted if they make reasonable, honest mistakes.
Right.
But have an accountability to where police don't feel as if, hey, I can say and just do whatever the hell I want and nothing's going to happen to me. So I think there should be a balance. I know a lot of people go, oh, qualified immunity, maybe the term qualified immunity end, if that will make you happy to those people, but not the idea of protecting the police to some capacity from losing everything they've ever worked for behind an honest mistake or a misjudgment that could reasonably be justified, if you will.
Okay.
But once it gets to that point of, you're violating this person, like you're choking the crap out of them or something like that, or there's been sexual assault things where cops take women that way out in the middle of nowhere and cut deals with them. You're doing wrong.
Correct.
You can't play it off now. You're past the playoff stage.
Right.
What I'm saying is we're way too far back the other way. Okay. Currently, I think there's too many cops that just know they're going to get away with it, and they push it, man. They say stuff and do things that they know damn well are wrong, but they know they won't get in trouble for it. I think the balance needs to be moved over to where, hey, if you're doing something that you know is wrong and a reasonable person would know is wrong, and you do it anyway, then that qualified immunity shield will no longer protect you if you're running dirty on purpose.
Right.
That's the problem I have with qualified immunity. There's too many police that run dirty on purpose because they have that bulletproof shield around them that just says, hey, anything. Well, I mean, it's not truly anything even right now, but the scope is pretty darn broad on what they can say and do without getting in trouble. And that's what breeds the problems we have.
This is true. I think that's well said. I think your perspective aligns a lot with mine. A lot of people, they hear the talking points of police reform and they immediately say, get rid of qualified immunity, get rid of police unions. The issue isn't so much the police unions or qualified immunity. The issue is how they are conducting themselves as far as unions, how they are protecting bad actors in the profession.
Right.
Qualified immunity, the idea of it is a beautiful idea. It's a beautiful concept. The concept is perfect. The problem is how they leverage it to protect misconduct. That's the issue basically what you're same thing that you're saying. I agree with that. So when people say get rid of qualified immunity, no, you can't just throw stuff away because it has a purpose. The problem is it's being abused. It's like anything, right? People say, oh, let's get rid of guns. Guns are killing people. No. Guns aren't. Right. Yeah, people are. Right. And you got to look at what's actually being done. The problem with qualified immunity is it's a good faith protection. When officers are operating under the color of law, what's happening though is it's over encompassing, it's so broad. There's so many ways, it's so malleable. You can use it. It can be used to defend an officer's bad decisions. It can also be used to leverage. You can pick and choose who you want to protect, what officers you want to protect. That's the problem with qualified immunity. If you have a good attorney who knows how to really use it, you can absolutely abuse it. I want to pull a definition for the people. This topic always confuses people. But I want to see if I can get a good working definition. And this is according to the American Bar Association. Let's see how they define it. All right. Let me pull this up so we all can kind of look at it. I always like to keep these things on the screen. So according to the American Bar Association, you guys, let me do, where's my plus sign? Boom, boom, boom. All right. I love their site. I like to use their sites for a lot of legal jargon. So this kind of level sets everything. So according to the American Bar Association, this is how they define qualified immunity. Qualified immunity is a judicial doctrine created by the Supreme Court that shields state actors from liability for their misconduct, even when they break the law. All right, that's key. Meaning that officers can break the law and be protected by the law or protected under the law, even if they break the law. That's important. Under this doctrine, government agents, including but not limited to police officers. Now, remember that piece. This is important to why I believe it'll never be removed, because it doesn't just apply to police officers. And this is something that you spoke on earlier when you talked about how there are people at the top that don't want things to change. If you remove qualified immunity from police officers, you then got to take it away from judges. You get what I'm saying? You got to take it. There's other actors involved in this system that benefit from qualified immunity. Limited, but not limited to police officers. Can never be sued for violating someone's civil rights unless they violated, and this is the caveat, clearly established law. Now, this is the problem. The clearly established law is the biggest loophole that they have and that they use when protecting officers' misconduct. So you guys heard the legal definition. Let me explain to you, the audience. I'm gonna put it in a very simple. It took me some time because it's hard to explain to people who aren't familiar with the legal jargon and just kind of how the process works. Let me explain to you, give you this analogy. Remember, clearly established law. You have a kid, and Shannon, you know how this works, right? You got a young kid. The kid takes a black bobby pin and they stick the bobby pin in an electric socket, right? And you tell the kid, listen, don't do that. You're gonna hurt yourself. Now, this is the first time the child has done it. So you don't want to punish the child because the child didn't know. The child just saw the bobby pin. They saw the electric socket. It looked like two things belong together, right?
Looks fun. Looks fun.
Looks fun. Right. So you want to discipline the child, but you don't want to punish them because they didn't know that what they were doing was wrong. Why? Because no one told them. You never told the child that you should not do this. So the child hears it and is like, okay, well, guess what? Next to your child were the other children. So you had 3 other children next to your child, and you told them all, do not do this. Now you know that this is wrong. Do not take this bobby pin and put it in the socket, right? You'll hurt yourself. You get somebody else hurt. Well, kid number 1 is like, all right, I got it. Kid number 2 says, okay, I heard what you're saying. They go and they find what? A yellow bobby pin. No. Then they take the yellow bobby pin and they proceed to go and try to put it in the socket. The parent comes back and say, damn it, I just told you to not do that. Do not take the bobby pin and put it in the socket. The kid says, hold on, pause. You said don't put the black bobby pin in the socket. You didn't say nothing about the yellow bobby pin. You guys, child 3, child 4, child 5, they go back and do the exact same thing. The parent never disciplines any of the children because they are holding on to what was clearly established, which was don't put a black bobby pin inside the socket. What's clearly established was the black bobby pin. What wasn't established was the yellow, the red, the purple. Same similar act, slightly different circumstances, but common sense will tell you these are all same. These are all similar. What qualified immunity does for police officers, it gives them a way to escape accountability by looking at small nuanced things in a case that ultimately, when you look at the bigger picture, it was established that you can't do this. Just because the person used a rifle versus a shotgun, now you are trying to look at all these small, little bit insignificant pieces to try to navigate around being held accountable. That is the problem with qualified immunity, that they take these small, nuanced things and try to use that as a way to say, hey, this wasn't clearly established, because what was clearly established said A, B, C, D. I see A, B, not C, but I see D though. And they use that as a way to circumvent around being held accountable. That's why when you see these things, it looks plain as day. Just like Shannon was saying, this is clearly as common sense, and you still violate it anyways. But now the law, qualified immunity, is saying, well, yeah, it's common sense, but technically I did it this way, was slightly different than what was established by law. Therefore, I should be able to be protected, because no one has had a situation or a circumstance exactly like this one. The reality is you'll never have a situation that's exactly the same, which is why there needs to be an understanding of common sense. You knew that this was wrong, period. And that if you did this, this would cause this type of outcome, and you violate this person's rights, and you need to be held accountable. And that is the issue that I have seen with qualified immunity.
It all tracks back. I mean, from the police unions to qualified immunity to internal affairs, all this, if you think about it, there's one common thread going on here, and it's accountability.
Yep.
If the police union holds the officers to a standard of, hey, we'll protect you if you didn't do anything wrong knowingly,
correct,
made a mistake accidentally,
right,
and we're going to go to bat for you. But if we know that you're corrupt,
yes,
you're snorting cocaine off in the car or something, you're doing something wrong, we're not going to defend you for that.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So if ultimately the police are accountable, that would make a gigantic change. That's what it's all about, is accountability. We know we can never, ever get 100% good anything.
Right.
You will never get 100% good officers. You'll never get 100% good church members. I mean, you'll never get 100% anything.
Anything, yeah.
We don't expect it. But what we do, I think, is very reasonable, is to expect the police to be accountable for their actions. I don't think for any job, if you work at McDonald's or if you work any corporate job, you can't just do whatever you want. You have to follow the rules. And if you don't follow the rules, then there's consequences. And I think that what you're seeing in the current state of policing, honestly, and it's blatantly apparent, is there's a lack of accountability. If these police officers knew, hey, if I say this or do that, I will be accountable. I can't. There's too many complaints that don't get followed up on, that should be followed up on. There's too much freedom to be bad. We have to get rid of that freedom.
That's true.
And I know it's a fine line between being unfair and making the job of policing so scary to people that they don't want to do it because of fear of being sued, which is why I didn't go full bore. Hey, no more qualified immunity. There shouldn't be anything to protect cops, because that's unreasonable.
Right.
Because it is a job that is kind of dicey, and sometimes you may have to do something to a criminal or to something, where you didn't mean to do it, or at the heat of the moment, or something went out of whack. And I'm not trying to nail all cops to the wall like that. I'm not trying to say that's the solution. I just think we're very relaxed right now as far as
Yeah.
a country, the way we do things currently, and it's just breeding a nation. I mean, I go out and do audits. I have audits I haven't even released yet, where cops say things and do things that they know is wrong.
Yeah.
They know it's absolutely wrong. They'll tell me if I don't ID, then I'll go to jail. And they'll and they know it's not legal and they know it's wrong, but there's simply no repercussion. And yeah, I can go make a complaint, but nothing even happens with that complaint.
Right.
So then citizens start feeling as if they're hopeless.
Yep.
Because there's no accountability. And then that's when you get bad things that happen to police. I think that bottle effect, when people have no outlet and they just snap.
Yep.
I think that causes a lot of violence against officers. People just lose all hope and they give up because nobody's listening to them.
You can't trust.
Nobody's returning their calls. Nobody's returning their emails. They're slamming doors in their face. They're not taking their complaints, and people just lose it because this cop is getting away with stuff and nobody cares. That's the problem. Yep. And if until they do something about that, it's not going to get any better. We have to hold, just like the citizens are being held accountable, we have to hold the authorities actually accountable, not just the facade of accountability where you fill out stuff and you go through these little rings and hoops and you feel like you did something. There has to be something on the back end to bolster that. You got to get a call, a report, some type of input back. Yeah, and say, okay, we looked at this, and this from this complaint. This officer said this. We've determined this from a neutral committee, and then that way the citizen feels at least that it didn't fall on deaf ears. There's nothing worse than taking the time to fill out a police, a complaint, and then get ghosted.
Yep.
By everybody, the police chief, nobody even calls you back. Nobody cares. It's just you have to be the one digging and scratching and knocking and answering, and then you just get dismissed. And it was unfounded. And that's the reason that people get frustrated with the current system. If we had a committee that had the power to discipline that officer or terminate that officer, I guarantee you officers would think twice. The bad officers out there would think twice before they do bad things. If they were going to be held accountable, if they knew that complaint was going to have some teeth, they would be a little more cautious about the way they moved.
Just knowing that your supervisor doesn't have the power to protect your bad behavior or your misconduct would be enough to get people straightened out. A lot of times, a lot of this corruption happens in small pockets. Sometimes it's pervasive throughout a department. Sometimes it could be as small as 4 officers and 2 supervisors, in a 100-man department. You could have you talking about the power of 5 people can terrorize a community, literally. It doesn't take much. I think, I won't say people don't know how much power. People know how much power police have. I'm just telling you that it doesn't take much to get the job done. Corruption doesn't take much. I think by doing that, you take that power away from a supervisor. A supervisor can bury a complaint in a heartbeat. They can, there's a chain of command. They can send it, they can make it look fancy, make it look pretty, and send it up the chain of command, and nobody will ever pay attention to it. And so to your point, to be able to circumvent around that, take that leverage away from the police department, absolutely, you'll see a night and day difference.
Let me make another point to that that kind of piggybacks off what you just said. Think about this too. Think about the fact they have to work together. I touched on this earlier, but I want to underline it one more time. If that officer gets a complaint filed, okay, goes to his supervisor, that supervisor may not necessarily be corrupt and hey, I love this officer. Hey, let me protect this officer at all costs. There's just that human nature element of, I got to work with this guy.
Yeah.
I got to see this guy tomorrow. what are other people going to say? What are the other cops going to say about it if I do X, Y, and Z to this cop? Am I going to look like a traitor? Am I crossing over the thin blue line in the wrong way? Am I going to be ostracized for what I do right here? So there's a dynamic there as well that needs to be thought about.
Yes.
If you remove all that away, and the supervisor's like, man, I got nothing to do with this. This
can't do nothing about it.
Went to another place.
Yes.
You can't get mad at me for what comes back.
Correct.
And when we work together day after day, you can't always have in the back of your mind, yeah, he's the one that recommended that I get a desk job, or I get fired, or whatever that happens, or I get, whatever kind of discipline that happens. You don't have that tension and that animosity circulating, because you better believe that's going to influence the decision of a lot of people.
Absolutely,
beyond the buddy part, which is probably more influential, but just the politics of what happens if I do have a negative reprimand for this officer who I have to look at every day.
Right.
It's coming in. I know about his family and his children, and his wife left him, and just take it all out. Take that whole.
It's a burden.
I would say even if they send it to another police department, kind of like what you said earlier about the accident. Mm-hmm. It sounded like your department was on it. To be honest,
my department was on it, man.
If you okay, let's say they don't have the resources to start a committee everywhere. I get it. That's a lot, but just the first phase, if they just shifted the complaints to another neighboring police department, and their complaints from that police department went to another neighboring police department, sort of like the judicial, legislative, and all that branch works in Congress. Mm-hmm. They never oversee each other directly. It always goes to the next person.
Yes,
that same mentality, if it was applied to policing, would greatly increase accountability, because it would take out the personal factor between the people involved inside that department. And it would say, hey, this is going over here.
Right.
We don't have anything to do with it. And let them issue justice, so to speak, based on the facts.
Yep.
That in itself would make a huge difference. I guarantee you.
I agree 100%. I think I've always said it. There needs to be a third party organization structure overseeing. There's no oversight. You're right. That's a big part of it. There's a lot of corruption that goes on in some of these departments, all the way up the chain, and it's bad. And a lot of it, again, when you start going into politics, you got people's, there's money tangled up. There's all these little financial entanglements going on. You got so yeah, that's true, man. And that is, I would love to see that. I think it's possible. I think it needs to be piloted in a particular city, and the research needs to be done to see how that impacts everything. Police are stubborn, but what I do know is that when they're forced to evolve, they're going to evolve. You're going to have people who are going to kick and scream. I remember when we started getting new technology in the department, people were kicking and screaming, and you had those dinosaurs in the department who did not want to change. They didn't like the body cameras. They didn't like the high-speed internet on the computers. They were so ingrained to the old way of doing things. Policing is very stubborn about evolving. They do not like to change, and they don't like transparency. And so they believe that transparency somehow impacts the quality of their work. And in actuality, it's the exact opposite. What do you have? I know you wrote down some things for us to touch on. What things that you wanted to kind of for us to dive into? I know we kind of covered
a lot of it. We have covered. Like the things that I kind of noted and that I just kind of scratched down was the civil asset forfeiture that's still going on. We kind of talked about that. That's something I've been kind of looking into lately, where that's still happening. Right,
that's a hard fight.
I don't know what your opinion is on that, but to me, I think it's totally flies in the face of freedom.
Yeah,
what this country is all about. Hey, if somebody's moving drugs and they have a lot of money and they find the drugs and the money together, I'm all for taking it. I'm not opposed to that.
Right.
And if there's a literal, like a good suspicion of drugs, let's say somebody has $1 million wrapped up in bundles in their gas tank and a false bottom in their gas tank, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
I get the investigation. You get what I'm saying? Like, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
I get them looking into it, but still have your day in court and still,
Correct.
I'm just against the whole idea of what's happening now is they basically take the asset and they tell you, sign this piece of paper, we're going to take you to jail and charge you with a felony. If you don't sign this piece of paper, you're going to get the felony. If you sign it, we'll let you go. You just go down the road like nothing ever happened. So that's one of the things I want to do a story on, to be honest with you, pretty soon.
It's called theft.
Yeah. That's definitely theft.
It's theft. And we've seen this, we hear about these cases all the time. You got officers who feel like they could do it on the road. That's criminal in nature. When you're taking the drug money and you're taking the drugs and you're putting it in for evidence. You're taking their assets because you claim that it was used or was purchased with illegal funds,
The truth of the matter, Nathan, is they're probably going to catch some drug dealers doing that. I'm not saying that they won't.
Of course, yeah.
But think about this. If police right now were to start going down to any neighborhood, just walk into a neighborhood and start kicking in doors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Randomly just going down the street, kicking in doors, doing searches on people's homes, they would net drugs. They would net felons.
That's
they
true.
would net criminals of all types, shapes, and sizes. They would catch a lot of illegal stuff.
Right.
They would. They literally would. But at the cost,
right, of violating people,
all the other people that didn't fall in that category, of their freedom, their liberty, their peace of mind, that you would have to violate. You'd have to trash so many people to get to those nuggets of gold, if you will.
Right.
That it becomes prohibitive to do that way. Well, that's kind of the same idea that this, when police are taking things from people on the highway, when they pull them over, like some guy had a bunch of silver in his RV. And he took it all. He took all of it. And some cash, and they just told him to kick rocks. And the guy is sitting there trying to explain to him, hey, this is where I bought it. Like
why do I have to prove it?
Let me tell you something. Drug dealers don't show up for court and fight for their stuff. If you're a bona fide drug dealer and you get caught, you ain't coming back. The guy that's coming back and fighting, he's not a drug dealer.
Correct.
He literally owns that stuff and he wants it back. So that should be the first clue. If he's saying, hey, here's me, here's my life, I'm coming back to fight, he obviously ain't running from you because he's some Colombian drug cartel guy. They got enough money not to risk it. This guy is fighting for his life savings.
I pulled a stripper over. Shout out to the strippers. And I technically didn't pull over. She brought this on herself.
Was it Cardi B? Oh, was it Cardi B? No. I just checking.
Not this one.
Shout out to Cardi B.
Shout out to Cardi B.
Video.
She fell asleep in the middle of the intersection. With the car running whole 9 yards. I ended up arresting her for DUI. But when I was inventorying the vehicle, I popped the trunk. It was full of cash.
Right.
And I could have did the most. I know what type of leverage I have.
Right.
Bagged it up, tied it to her, and I said, hey, this is it's gonna be in our evidence locker. When you bond out, come by and get it. Do you know how much money? I need you to count it right here in front of me. We have it on record. Make sure you count it. We double checked it. Put it up, sealed it in some evidence tape. Your hard working dollars. I'm not I can play around with the language.
Right.
Because you can.
Right.
But as officers, we know when we have the real thing. and you know when you're effing with people. You get what I'm saying?
But if you're incentivized, you know, like, okay, so think about this officer. There's like one county in Nebraska that's responsible for like 90% of civil asset forfeitures. One tiny little county of the whole state that is responsible for 90% of the civil asset forfeitures. Think about how they're incentivized. So imagine if what their spoils of what they got went to somewhere else. Went to they just had a random, kind of like what they do for Secret Santa or whatever. They just give it out to people, you know? So imagine if it went other places. How motivated do you think the police would be to find those drug asset?
Absolutely.
Or illegal gotten gain, or however you want to put it? They wouldn't be. But if they get a new G-Wiz gadget, a new armored truck, new this, new that, new faster Hellcat police cars, if they get all these perks and toys in it, not to mention the psychological aspect of all the attaboys and high fives that come with those big butts.
That's true.
They seek that attention. They seek that notoriety. It's a game. It becomes a game. Who can win? Who can get the biggest catch? Who get that biggest catch? And it drives them.
That's true.
And then so naturally what's going to happen on the other side is you're going to get the imagination going of police who want that catch so bad that how can we shape this man into a drug dealer or some illegal type of person? How can we manipulate
the
situation? He stuttered when I asked him if he ever sold drugs. Well, that's what, you know. And then he said this, and he disagreed with that, and this is starting to sound like a case to me. Because the motivation is right there.
I've never thought about it like that.
Terrible. It's
never thought about it like that. I never thought about it. I mean, you know what's so funny? To your point, I experienced that same thing, being incentivized catching criminals. It is a good feeling. You know, you get excited. You get one officer coming one day, I locked up 3 felons today. Then you're looking at yourself like, damn, I didn't do anything. You know, it's exhilarating. One could say the endorphins, right, are kicking off. And it becomes addictive in nature. If you don't properly curb that addiction with truth and a reminder, a refresher of why you're here, you can get lost in that. It becomes a game of cat and mouse. You're absolutely correct. I've always took pride. We used to come back in the precinct and brag about, hey, you know, if someone got away from you in a foot chase, you know, these were healthy competitions though, right? Someone you respond to a break-in, you respond to a theft or a robbery, and you get into a foot chase. If you couldn't catch the guy, nobody forgets that. We all remember that. You know,
they're gonna clown you.
We'll clown you for that. You know,
I can see that.
I had a coworker where a guy let himself out the backseat of his car in handcuffs and took off running.
Oh, shit.
You know, we clowned him for that forever. And so we do this part of the camaraderie. We do joke about those things. But you're right. There does come a time where it can be unhealthy pursuit, to where now you have an officer who's not mature enough to understand that they now are becoming a vice in their own community that they're trying to protect. Because now they're looking at everybody with window tint. They're looking with, oh, that car has rims. The last drug dealer I arrested had rims. He was in this type of car. You then start profiling out of near desperation, right? Is what you're saying. It's like you get into this, and you're absolutely correct. You start seeing a criminal in everybody that you look at.
So desperate.
It's so desperate, and it happens so, I would say, unconsciously.
Yeah,
you know?
Seamless.
You
fall into it.
It's very subtle. It's very subtle. There have been times I had to catch myself falling into an ego trip, you know. And so, but you got to be introspective in this job. Some people are not, like the gentleman you dealt with at Sandy Springs. That brother was, he came out like G.I. Joe. He thought he was somebody. Yeah. He really thought he was somebody special.
Right.
You know, and not even greeting, hey, sir, how can I serve you? What's going on? Okay, I know they called. He explained to me. So it's
oh, by the way, his name is Brandon Labar. For anybody wants to
shout out to Brandon.
You tried to say He told me I had to look up his information. I said, no problem. This is prove all things, baby. So I got everything on that guy. There's some things I didn't release just for officer safety reasons. I'm not trying to screw the guy up, but I can tell you everything about the guy. Everything.
Yeah. He brought that on himself, man. Listen, I tell people all the time, we gotta take this uniform off. One thing, shout out to Brandon, shout out to Brandon LaBar, shout out to that brother.
LaBar.
He wasn't
the worst, man. He wasn't the worst. I've seen a lot worse than him.
He's not the worst, but he's a good poster child. He's a good poster child for the conversation of why people don't like arrogant ass police officers. Right. I'm sorry, it's a problem.
What bothered me more than his arrogant nature was him and the other officer there, their tactics on lying to stop my freedom. That's what ultimately the test is, hey, do you respect my rights or do you try to violate? That's the problem that I have, is when they try to come up. I think it was about 5 or 6 different tactics. One didn't work. They had another one, another one. What will stick to get this guy out of here? What can we say to intimidate him or scare him away? This guy is in front of somebody's house that we probably get a lot of tax money from. We're proud that they're here. It's our little shining star. We have a celebrity in our midst, and we need to protect them from these prying eyes. Instead of them standing on my rights and saying, look around and go, well, he hadn't broken the law. That should have been his first reaction is, well, what did he do illegal? What are you saying he did? I get that they have to show up. I got no problem with that.
You show up and you're supposed to investigate. Yeah, right. But as officers, you show up and you investigate. And part of investigating is asking questions. You talk to both parties.
Right.
Both parties. There's an accusation that's being made when you show up. Somebody's doing something, whatever. You go in there. I'm going there. I'm asking, hey, what's going on, you guys? How's everything going? All right. I'm going to just separate you. I'm going to talk to this gentleman first. I'm going to talk to you so I can get both sides of the story. I come and talk to the complainant. Normally, I go to the complainant first. Whoever called, I hear what they have to say. Okay, he did what? Okay, cool. And guess what? Then I come to you. Hey, so how you doing? I'm Officer so-and-so. I tell you my name. Why? Because I'm a public servant.
You don't give me a number.
That's it. And then we talk about it. You tell me what happened. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what happened. I was like, well, you know how people are. That's what I'm going to say to you is, you know how people are. They're extra. I'm going to go and talk to the security out there who's out here regulating and overstepping their job. Tell them what they did is unacceptable. You're a good man. And a lot of people who haven't seen the whole video, the man who smacked you, I'm sorry. I would have took it.
So he smacked my camera. If he would have smacked me, I would have been on right there.
It don't matter. He can't do that.
No,
he can't do that. That's
I made another video about that guy. He's funny, man.
Listen, and people get mad at me. I like to be fair, because if the roles were reversed, they probably would be like, no, I want to press charges. I would have, but you're a good man though, and you weren't there to try to create no unnecessary drama.
Right.
And that's an assault.
It definitely is a battery. And I even said that I could have defended myself. I mean, but you got two armed guys there that probably aren't the smartest guys. I mean, if you just kind of look at the video, you can tell what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But ain't no telling how that would have went down, you know.
No,
I wasn't in fear to do something if he would have attacked me a little more viciously. Couldn't kind of just batted my camera, and I was like, "Yeah, guy's frustrated." I was like, "But if you get a little more aggressive, I mean, it's probably going to have to jump off, because I'm not there to get, picked on by anybody. I'm just not." One thing I want to say about that video, if you go back and watch this, you can actually see the moment that that officer. The big guy Brandon, he when he first approached, he said, well, he has the right to record. If you listen, it's kind of hard to hear in the video, but then 1 second later is when he switched. So at first I'm thinking, well, this cop is, first instinct is this cop is kind of cocky, but at least he's lawful. At least he's telling the truth. The guy's on the street. We can't do nothing about it.
Yeah.
But no sooner than those words left his mouth did he start the next sentence of, but you are on the street. It's illegal to be on the street.
Right.
It flowed out of his mouth within seconds of saying that I was legal to record. Once that came out, then the lies started flowing out. Then it's you know, oh, you can't do this, and if you don't live in this neighborhood, you're loitering and prowling. This is what he said verbatim.
Yeah.
I said, when is it illegal to walk through any neighborhood that's public? I don't have to live there. I could be house shopping. How do you know I'm not a multi-millionaire looking for my next pad?
There you go.
You don't know what I'm doing there.
Yep.
Nor do I have to explain it to you and put on a song and dance.
Shout out
this
to
is supposed to be America, you know?
Yeah, yeah. This is the same problem we had with the Ahmaud Arbery situation. You know,
right? Exactly.
People want to police the public roadways. You know, like you. This is my neighborhood. No, this is not your neighborhood. You know, it's like this mentality that people think because they spend a little bit more money that they then are in charge of, or they have ownership of. No, you have ownership of that land,
right,
up to the curtilage of this spot. You know,
right.
And I just appreciate. I think it was well done. I still plan on breaking down that entire video on the channel just because to your point, the officers, there were other officers who showed up, and instead of just I mean, my thing is there's so much you can dead so much with just an apology. Hey, you know what? We misunderstood what took place here. Now that we have a better understanding what's going on, hey, we apologize. We'll let them know you do have a right to do this, do that. Just, you know, if you guys can just try to be respectful with each other. I say things like that. Just try to be respectful with each other.
I got him to that point, but it shouldn't have knowledge. Took that long. It took knowledge and me standing on what I knew to be right in order to basically force that conclusion. Because had I stopped at the first, well, it's illegal to be in this neighborhood if you don't live here. You're loitering and prowling. Oh, I better leave. If I would have done that, we never would have gotten to that point of that officer. If you watch the video, I'm sure you've watched the whole video. There was a point where I looked at the officer and said, you need to tell them
there you go.
That I have the right to be here.
Exactly.
And that I'm not breaking the law. And you need to defend my rights, is what I told that officer. And that's when he turned and he said, he's right.
He's right.
He's right.
We can't make him leave. I love it, man.
And that's what my channel's all about, to bring this all back into like a little nutshell for the audience. It's about knowing your rights. So you can't count on anybody else to know your rights for you, or to defend your rights or uphold your rights. Watch these type of channels. Watch Nathan's channel. Watch my channel. Watch similar channels, not for just the entertainment factor of, oh, watch how this guy talks to this guy, or not. You know, that's fun, but it's more than entertainment. It's knowledge.
Right. Yes.
Learn what the police can do. Learn what they can't do. Learn what you can say. Learn what you shouldn't say. How you should talk. And conduct yourself to not fall in pitfalls and have your rights violated. That's what these channels really, if they're any good, are all about, is to educate. Entertain, certainly, but also to educate. You should know that you don't have to give your ID to an officer just because he asks.
Right.
And you shouldn't. Now, if you committed a crime or you're suspected of a crime, that's another story.
Right.
But just because an officer randomly asks for your ID, even if you're a passenger in a car, you need to protect yourself and not give up your rights just because an officer has a badge and you feel intimidated because he asked. You don't want to set him off or make a bigger problem. Don't fall into that, because then the next person, you're going to make it harder for them. If we all stand up for our rights, then we can change things. But if we fold and buckle every time that our rights are tested, things are going to remain the same. It's just human nature. I keep saying that, but it's the truth.
Man, that is a good segue. I was gonna say I want to give you the final the final words to this. These conversations are so needed, and to your point, a lot of knowledge is shared, and all I do is just provide insight to break things down and give people a better understanding and bring truth to the conversation, because we have too many panderers that come on YouTube and they just like to pander to one particular group, and ultimately you walk away not having anything that's tangible, relative, or things that can actually keep you safe. But I like that, one of the most things that you called out today was just the power of transparency and how that needs to be the focal point on police reform. All this other stuff that they like to bring up, all the, no knock warrants and blah, blah, blah. Listen, I'm gonna knock once and kick the door open anyways. It's not, that's not going to change anything. That's not going to change anything. We're talking about real solutions that are going to have sweeping results. That there's when you look at a lot of these past questionable police shootings or police misconduct, the root of it all was transparency, the inability to get access to real information, the truth, before stories and things and evidence start getting tampered with or missing. You think about the power of being able to expose these things or bring light to them in the moment, not months later after people have gathered around and protested and demanded. So I want to ask the audience, anybody has any questions for us? Nothing, you guys know how I operate my channel. Nothing is off the table.
Shout out to your mod for putting all the links up there. Eds, thank you. You're doing a great job.
She be handling business. Yeah, my mom's being on point.
Yeah, mod ain't. It's not playing no games. No, somebody got a question somewhere, y'all. Come on.
Oh, they got questions. They got questions.
Be proactive.
They got questions.
Let's be proactive here.
Sometimes I miss them. Put a Q in front of your comments. So I know I can pull it up on the screen. What questions? Do you have any questions for me while people are doing that? What's your thoughts?
Are you currently still in law enforcement actively?
No.
You're out of it. That's kind of just something I was just thinking in my mind. Mm-hmm. It sounds like, and I'm not saying it just because I'm on your broadcast or anything like that, but it honestly sounds like you were one of the good officers from what I could tell, like your affect, the way that you talk.
Thank you.
Like I said before earlier, man, I'm not anti-police. I don't want anybody out there to feel that way. Don't be rude to police when they pull you over for no reason. Like rude for no reason, I'm saying. If they pull you over for no reason, that's another story. Don't be unnecessarily rude or antagonistic.
Right.
Because there are a lot of good officers. I've met plenty of them. But if an officer is abusing your rights and running over you, stand on your rights, respectfully stand on your rights, and follow up with it if you've been violated. File complaints, record them, post it, get it out there, be proactive. Don't be scared to record a police officer in the course of their duties. Don't be intimidated. If you feel like something's happening, even if you don't feel like anything's happening, I would suggest you record all interactions, period. Just start recording. I don't care if it's a speeding ticket or some minor infraction or something. Record it because it protects both parties involved. There's nothing wrong with transparency from the police officer side and the citizen side. If a citizen's out of line and does something wrong, they should be held accountable as well. It should go both ways. There should not be any favoritism on either side. I'm about the truth. I'm not about one side or the other. I just want the truth out there.
Yep.
And that's why I say record it.
Absolutely.
All right, let's see. Do we got any questions here? I'm looking too.
Lewis brings up a good question. It says, do you think a civics class should be taught at police academies? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. Anything you're doing that involves any job that involves interactions with citizens, rights, and just even psychological aspects that I understand that you won't be a full-blown psychologist, but there are certain tactics that are going to need to be employed by a typical officer during a career. So level of psychology, and not just the psychology used to entrap people, like asking multiple questions if somebody's intoxicated.
Right.
Not just that type of psychology, but beneficial psychology that could help, stop somebody from hurting themselves, or somebody's dealing with depression, or just other aspects of that nature. There should be more training, and it should be held at a higher standard. And I agree with what you said, Nathan, about the amount of police. I think right now we have this shotgun approach where it's just fill the streets full of minimally educated, minimally trained bodies, give them guns, cars, and badges, and let's let hilarity ensue. And I think that creates this problem that we're dealing with right now, where people are protesting and saying defund the police, because honestly, it's a shit show.
Yeah.
And that's what needs to stop. Police officers need to be held at a high regard again, where you have officers that people look up to, from children to adults, and go, damn it, he's a police officer.
Yeah.
Like he made it to be a police officer.
Yep.
But I mean, I be seeing some of these cops now, and I'm looking at them like, how? I mean, just these. I'm not going to go into details, but you think you get my point. Just people that don't.
Embarrassing.
It just doesn't seem like they're a cop, but they have a badge, and they stuff them in a uniform and send them out on the street, and it's just out there, and it's like, what are you?
It's bad.
What are you doing? Like it's bad. That's why you can't respect it. Like officers should have a certain level of physical conditioning.
Yep.
They should have a certain level of mental aptitude.
Yep.
There should be a general knowledge of your amendments, the rights of the citizens, what they can and can't do ethically, legally. That should be a true professional where people look at it and go, this is my protector. These guys are out protecting us. They shouldn't feel like they're being harassed, targeted, picked on. That's what policing has become, it seems to me, where there's too much of the it's almost like a circus.
Yeah.
And instead of it being a bona fide, you should feel like the police are like the security force of that city.
Yeah.
Like they're out there actively catching bad guys and looking for real crime, not out there harassing people to generate money or to, that's what it feels like to me. And I have so many examples of being stopped by police for fishing expeditions and stuff. And I get it. They need to find criminals, but I think they go about it the wrong way.
Correct.
I think the smarter way, like, I know I'm getting a little long here, but I just want to tell you, like, my wife was working out in the RV that I have. We were in Peoria, Illinois, and the police came banging on the door because they were not familiar with this RV in the neighborhood. We're at my mom's house. My mom lives there. And they said they had a lot of break-ins in the area. And so they're checking out this suspicious vehicle. Okay? To me, that's horrible police work. Because if you really thought maybe this vehicle was involved in break-ins, what you should do is park off in the distance, and peek around a corner and observe. Have one cop over here, one over there, and catch me if you think I'm doing something wrong. Jumping the fence or walking back with this stolen whatever they have getting stolen. I don't know, but you get my point. It's the mentality is, let's rush in and get their IDs. Let's go harass them. Well, if I was a criminal, now you just scared me off. You could have caught the guy responsible for those break-ins, but instead you alerted me that you're on to my presence, and now you think I'm not going to break in anything, which would be good for that day.
Right.
But 2 months from now, I'm still free to do what I was doing.
Right. Or go to the next neighborhood.
Right. So why not try to catch me if you really think I'm that guy? See, this sloppy stuff like that makes people not respect the police force as a whole, because you get dumb mentalities like that out there. Now you're harassing people that didn't break a law. Now my wife feels violated. I feel violated. because you came down and yelled. They were yelling at her and stuff and banging on the door.
That's
and
the
she
thing.
committed no crime. But that's the type of thing I'm talking about. That lack of training and the lack of accountability lets police just, hey, let's just go mess with people. If we just have a whim, we'll just go mess with them.
And citizens will feel a lot better if they feel like their voice mattered. And I think that's one of the biggest atrocities to this problem, is that you have people who truly feel like if they were to complain and really have a legitimate complaint, that it would fall on deaf ears. That makes you feel powerless. It gives a sense of hopelessness, and it also increases the idea that the police are untouchable. Who checks the police? And when you can't point out who that person is, it's a recipe for disaster. And I believe that policing as a profession is operating here, and the citizens are saying, we want you to operate here. We're at a place now where the profession is showing that they are refusing to rise to the standards society is asking us to operate at. And that's a problem, because the people—
That's the tension. Yeah.
Yep. People are in charge. People have the power.
People are saying, if you won't listen to us, then we'll take the money from you, and that'll force you to change. Right. That's why people have the defund the police movement. In a nutshell, is they're frustrated. They feel like the police are not doing a good job, of policing. That's why they're frustrated. And I agree with them based on my own audits and observations from watching other audits. There are more bad police and incompetent police than there are good police out there. And that should be inverted. There's always going to be a few bad ones. I get it. But it should be the majority of police should be good police that actually hold the other police accountable when they see corruption and bad policing, to step up and say, hey, we're not going to get into the whole blue line brotherhood snare, and we're going to stand on what's right, regardless if you like me or not. I'm going to stand on what's right. And that's something that's very rare to see.
How do you begin to even— this is I'll end with this question. I think this is how do you even begin to make that shift? How does it start? If someone were to put you in charge today and say, Shannon, you are in charge of fixing this problem, how do you begin that transition and shifting the culture of policing? Where do you start?
The best example I could say is it would be an almost instant, what I call behavior modification. If somebody knew that what they do and how they act would result in an actual investigation, and they would be accountable, that like a light switch would change a lot of problems. It would literally revolutionize the policing industry. Like, it would change it overnight. If the new policy was, hey, when we receive a complaint, it will be handled by an outside agency, outside of this police department, that has the authority and the power to actually do something about this said complaint. That's the way it's going to go from now on. So anytime a citizen complains on anybody in this department, it will go to an independent, neutral party that will issue a judgment on the way to proceed forward. If it's founded, unfounded, what the discipline should be. That in itself, I'm not saying that's the end all of everything, but that would be the first major ripple in the system that would help change the behavior of rogue police officers and bad police officers. it would stop these cops, especially like in New York and stuff. Some of these damn cops, they are so
chain, man.
Arrogant. I mean,
Yeah.
they just don't care. They just say whatever. They don't care.
Yeah.
If they knew they could lose their job and their nice pension and all the stuff that's coming with them working there the next 10, 15 years of their career, if that could all terminate today, they would think twice.
That's true.
That's the problem. So that would just be the first thing. That in itself would cure probably 70 to 80% of the problem. And then you could work your way down from there. You could say, okay, we need more training. We need to vet we probably need to pay some of these officers better. If we can't find good officers at this pay rate, then let's up the pay rate a little bit more. I think the citizens would be happy to pay a little bit more to have quality people that are protecting their rights, protecting their property. Like, I'm all for officers being hard on the bad guys. I'm all for it. If you find a true rotten bad guy that's really a bad person, we need that power and those strong officers to deal with that. I'm 100% for it. But I just don't like to see that force being misapplied, which happens all the time. And that's the problem that I'm out there fighting against.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Because they come
hit the bad guys, leave the citizens out of it, Leave the law-abiding citizens out of it.
Yep.
And don't mix them into your pursuit of the bad guy. Put more effort in finding the bad guy. Don't just pull over all the people you can fishing for the bad guy. Look for the bad guy. Bad guys leave clues. They really do. They get sloppy, these druggies and stuff, you can tell. I mean, they leave clues.
It requires skill.
It's not too hard to find them if you're willing to do the work.
There you go. It requires a certain skill level. It's easier to pick on those who follow the law than it is to pick on those who don't.
Right.
That'll be my end quote. What I've seen, it's easier to bully those who follow the law than those who don't. Because when you come across somebody, and I kind of talked about this briefly, when I first realized that, I tell this to rookie officers when I'm coaching them and training them, the job doesn't start until someone tells you they don't want to go to jail. That's when you realize what this job is really about. It's easy to measure. There you go.
Right.
It's easier to measure this job when everybody is listening to what you say. It's the person who doesn't listen is when the job begins. And so
that's deep.
That's what I've learned. The first person told me that, I showed up at the house. He had beat his girl, his girlfriend. He just got out of prison, beat her so bad, and so bad that the neighbors and the girl's mother called the police. I just happened to be right down the street, so I was the first one to show up. Doors open. I walk in. She's screaming, hollering. I see her. She's bloody, her face swollen, purple, the whole 9 yards. He's standing over her, punching her. And this before we had tasers, none of that fancy stuff. You wanted to drop somebody, you had to go and put hands on them. You didn't have all this fancy, trinkets. You didn't have all that. It was your hands and a gun.
Taser's been out a while, brother. You don't look that old. I'm just
saying.
They've been out a while. Taser's been out a while. I'm just saying, you don't look that old.
Hey, I'm trying to tell you, brher. Black don't crack.
In those days, they didn't have tasers.
They didn't have tasers. Right? Yeah, we didn't have tasers, man. At the time they were made in a way that were just like really expensive. Our department didn't have them, man. We had to go. You have to earn. You have to earn your winnings. You have to put hands on people.
Right.
You have to know how to scrapple.
Right.
So the man looked at me and he told me, he said, what are you doing in my house? So, I'm not going back to jail. That's what he told me. I'm not going back to prison. And so, needs to say some furniture got moved around that day.
Oh yeah.
And so to your point though, I had a veteran officer tell me that during the daytime, he said, we're not here to mess around with people going to and from work. Leave them alone. That's not what we're here for, right? Like, this is him coaching me as a young officer. He said, we're here working day hours or whatever. You got a lot of people rushing to work. They're just trying to get to work on time. He said, the criminals that we're looking for, they don't get up to about 10, 11 o'clock, you know?
That's
So we,
right.
you know,
That's
so
wisdom.
it's like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you're learning from people who have a mentality here that we are here to support, defend these people. When they're leaving to work and they're gone, all these properties are free and open for criminals. You know, our job is to protect these. So I got real infatuated with catching burglars. I got really good at it.
That's
You
good
know,
police work. There you go.
and what he told me was that a lot of people don't like doing this type of policing because it's just not out in front of you. You have to have the eye for it. You got to know what to look for. You got to look for behavior clues and cues and things like that. There's certain mannerisms, and you're learning how to see without seeing. You're not using your civilian eyes anymore. You're using eyes that are more investigative.
Right.
And you're trying to dive deeper into things that the everyday citizen is not going to be able to see.
Right.
So to your point, it's a lot easier to pull somebody over and stop a car and this tail like that, and then, you know, and not to say you can't get good arrests and things like that from there, but
Right.
when you cultivate an officer in the art of investigating, understanding law, understanding crimes, knowing what people's rights are, when you really dive into the minutia of it, the truth of this profession, you get a very well-rounded officer. Too many officers get congratulated just for writing tickets and pulling in revenue. And so we used to brag all the time about officers. Oh, this officer's getting awarded for this. He wrote 100 tickets this week. I'm like, well, damn, I stopped 2 bank robbers and arrested 5 felons who were wanted, and you guys aren't celebrating me. So it is interesting, man. A lot
that breeds people to go write more tickets because that's what's celebrated.
It's insane. It's celebrated. That's what's celebrated.
Right. Whatever that department celebrates, and vice versa. If more weight is put on catching felons,
that's true.
Then that's what they're going to get more felons.
That's true.
You know, that's people are human. That's human nature. That's what you're going to do. If that's what gets you the pats on the back, the promotions and the attaboys and the raises and whatever, you're naturally going to gravitate toward whatever action that is. It's just the way it goes. Yeah, it's human nature.
Very true.
So it sounds like I like when you said you were out catching the burglars. That's my point. We need officers using their time, their resources to do that type of work. We need to be catching criminals, not pulling over the guy that's riding his bike on the side of the road because you want to check his ID because he's young and he's black. And you just want to run him. That's the kind of police work that I'm not down with because you're messing with that person's liberty. Even though he's young and he's black, he still has the same rights as anyone else. You don't have the right to take it from him. And ruin his day. Yeah, that's what I don't like. Go out and find the person. If you think he's breaking into houses, watch him.
Yeah, watch him and do the job properly to get the win. Yeah,
I know it's not as exciting to sit there and watch people and look for crime in that nature. It doesn't give you that adrenaline rush, but it does produce a net effect of higher quality catches, so to speak.
Well,
and that's what I think police should go for, is that high quality catch, not just throw as many people in a charge them or throw them in a jail cell for petty, minor, stupid little things, but go for those quality criminals, the people out hurting people, robbing people, selling drugs to kids. I mean, those are those quality catches that we as a society really need the police for.
Absolutely.
We don't really need the police pulling us over because our taillight flashed, we went over a bump. That happened to me, actually. That's actually a true story. And pulled me and my wife out, interrogated us on the side of the highway because my taillight flashed as I went over a bump.
How do you think citizens would feel with a traffic force that's not armed that enforces traffic violations versus the actual police officers? You think
City
that would
of
go over
Fort
well?
Collins has something like that. They call them public safety officers, I think it was, if I remember right. It was like a level below a full-fledged police officer, and they would go out, Fort Collins, Colorado, by the way.
Okay.
They would go out and do patrols for that kind of thing. Like they would do minor traffic and minor incidents, and they had a uniform and everything, but I don't believe they had guns.
Yeah.
It usually was kind of an older group that would do that type of a job.
Volunteer kind of work. Yeah.
I'm not against it, but my problem is if that officer would run across the bad guy. I'm a big fan of being armed for everybody. And that includes officers that are acting in any capacity. That includes citizens. So I would never condone somebody being unarmed. I would say, if nothing else, maybe not have it so out there. Maybe have it a little more concealed. If you wanted to have, like, if the idea was to go for a more calm approach, is what I think you're trying to say. Like, it's less intimidating.
Yeah,
if they didn't have a gun on them and they were more passive and less aggressive. I would say that would be a good idea, but I still would suggest that they be armed with something. I just feel that way for everybody, because there's a lot of nutty ass people out there, and especially if they're getting pulled over, they may not realize you're not a high level cop. All they know is you're pulling them over, and they're thinking cop. They're thinking cop, you know.
Yeah, that's
they could
true.
be a danger. They could be
That's
a danger
true.
to you.
That's
and,
true.
I'm all about stopping the danger.
Yeah, and I'm thinking more so along the lines of within within a city, not necessarily on the highway. I think the highway should be for highway patrol. I think that should be their thing. But within like a city,
even in a city, somebody could be that way.
That's true.
You know, I don't think it stops on the highway. You can get some nutcase in the city. I mean,
that's true. Yeah,
that wants to harm you as soon as you pull them over, because they have a warrant or whatever other reason they want to hurt the police, and they don't want to go back to prison or whatever. They're not going to stop and think this officer can't
hold me accountable. Right.
Yeah, they're going to think either if that cop is not armed, he can call one that is. So they're not going to feel like, you know, I don't think people are scared about the guns and the badges themselves.
Okay. I
think people are more scared about the person in control of those devices. So if you know that person has got a sound judgment, a sound mind, and a fair mind, that's almost a comfort to you, because you're like, those are the guys that protect us from the bad guys.
Okay.
You're not worried about that gun if you're a law-abiding citizen so much with the good officer. It's kind of like Cardi B's security, right? They got guns. When she pulls up, she's not intimidated. She's like, they're on my side.
Right.
You know, I'm paying them. They're protecting me. I'm glad. I want to see 2 guns on them. You know what I mean? Like, they're protecting me, because she has confidence that person that's controlling those weapons is not going to hurt her, that they're only there to defend her. Right. That's how society should feel about police. We should look at those police and go, hey, as long as I'm on the right side of the law, I don't have to worry about this officer intimidating me, disrespecting me, trashing my rights. He's on my side. And the problem that people have is they don't feel that.
That's
because
true.
They get targeted by the police. They go through these checkpoints. They get harassed. They feel like the police are not on their side. And that's the disconnect. Yeah. We should feel like the police are on our side if we're law abiding. Right. And the criminals should feel like, oh crap. These cops look at these cops. You know, look at the guns and the tasers. Oh crap. Right. We gotta watch out. And the police should be actively focused on finding the criminals and not targeting citizens that are not doing a crime. If you look at these audit videos, you'll see plenty of examples where a guy is just recording with the camera, but the full weight and intimidation of that police officer and other officers join in, condescend on him, threats and yelling and screaming and violence, and for a guy holding a camera. And that's a good example of how these audits show my point. Why are you pulling all these resources and all this violence and all this screaming for a person that hasn't, where's the victim? He hasn't done anything illegal. Take those resources and go after the guy that just, the DUI guy that just hit an innocent person and drove off. That's what we need.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue. The disconnect now, as it has been for a long time, is that you have a lot of officers who do not believe they're servants, who do not believe that they are in a position of servitude, and they do not believe they are at the mercy of the citizens. It's almost like the citizens should be grateful that we are here. You are lucky that we are here. It's this weird ideology, I think, that has contaminated the profession to where we're almost above the people we're serving.
Oh yeah, it's not almost. It's
You know what I mean?
police
like, yeah, the mentality is
they don't have to answer, but on the side of every police car, what do you see? To serve and protect. It says right there to serve and protect, but there's so many officers that it's just like the amendments. Who cares? It's just a formality.
No, it's serve and protect my interests.
Right.
Serve and protect my interests, and that is that's the problem, man. Listen, Shannon, this is
awesome. I appreciate the opportunity, man.
Brother. No,
hey,
man.
If you want me back, I will be back, and I got some stuff I'm doing in Arizona. I'm actually going to sue I'm going to sue them for a lot of money. I'll just put it like that, but I'm not going to lay out too much. Fine. But I'm in the process of that right now with some help.
Okay.
And we're going to hold them accountable. And like I said, it's all about accountability. So that's going to be the first step.
Sure.
And I'll keep you posted on that one. We haven't even got into the Maricopa thing. I don't know if you've seen that video, but I got arrested. Watch it. It's
I was going to say, when you're ready or whenever you're ready, you want to come by, you want to share any other content, you want to break down a video together with the audience, show them kind of, and I really wanted to use this day as a day to kind of really introduce you, because I want to do more work with you, educating and showing people what it looks like when you're actively going through these cases and kind of breaking it down. I want us to be able to pick one who could do the one in Arizona once everything settles, and really just kind of show people, hey, this is where the violation was, and here's how we handled it, and just really educate people on how to properly navigate through these situations, because it can be scary. You know, it can be scary because I tell people all the time, don't hold court in the street. What you said earlier is perfect, where you're not rude, you're not salacious, you're always professional, because that way they cannot use that against you in court.
Right.
They can't twist the words.
Start blurring the lines.
They blur the lines.
Getting too aggressive. It blurs the lines between who's right, who's perpetuating the problem.
There you go. Yep.
That's why I don't do it, because it gets hairy.
Yes.
You know, you can make your point, but lose it at the same time in the same video.
Yeah.
So that's why you can watch my audits from beginning to end. I don't go, oh, you pigs, and there's some people that they go in from the moment the word go. It's all about how much you can disrespect the officer.
Yep.
And I mean, that's a test in itself. It's just not my style because it doesn't underline the bad.
The truth.
But brother, I'm telling you, I got stuff with courts that I do. I do more than just police. Like, I got stories I'm doing about courts that don't follow their own rules about different things.
So
one in Illinois that's not doing not doing the right thing, and different aspects beyond just police and beyond just recording in public. Like, I go way deeper, like into records request violations, Oklahoma City's one that I'm working on right now, where they don't want to give up public records, where there's this cocky guy in Oklahoma City who just says, you don't need it. I got it recorded. He's like, I'm not releasing that because nobody even needs that stuff. Because he just feels like he can just control it. Man. Public record, mind you. Public record.
These folks, man,
it's off the chain, Nathan.
It is, man. Look, it's all throughout government. It's so annoying. It's people are so miserable in their job. They take it out on others, or they have this power, man. I see it at the DMV trying to get a license, a new ID. There's so much. People all share the same experience. You go to DMV, no matter where you are.
Terrible. Because what are you going to do? You can't go to another DMV. If the DMV was any other business, they would have been out of business a long time ago. They would have went bankrupt. The only reason they stay in business is because you have no option.
You got no options. You can't hold them accountable.
Right?
How do you hold the DMV accountable for disrespecting?
No accountability.
And the people working there know this. This goes back to your point. When people know that they're not going to be disciplined, they do what they want to do.
There's no more. If they worked at Costco, they would have been fired the first day.
Yep.
Listen, it becomes their first day there. They probably had a different mentality than their 1 year.
Yeah.
It's a culture.
Yeah.
They know that their coworkers talk to people like that.
Yep.
Their bosses let them get away with it, and it becomes who they are.
Yep.
They become rude, obnoxious, because they see it happening everywhere around them. And there's no
it's so
backlash.
Empowering. It's so addictive though to have to wield power over somebody else. I think I talk to people all the time about this, is that we don't examine the psychosis of what the inherently how power affects your personality. Right. I don't think we don't talk about that enough in policing. Or in any profession. This goes for doctors, this goes for lawyers, this goes for judges. When you are given power, man, some people, they just can't handle it. I'm almost convinced that humans were never designed or created to wield power. You know what I mean? Like, it's only a rare few people who have the character, the mentality, and the maturity to be graced with power and then use it appropriately. We even see King Solomon.
Right.
You're talking about the wisest man.
Right.
He fell.
Yeah.
Right.
He fell. Yeah.
And he had some power. That brother there had power.
Right.
So a lot of powerful people fall from the use of the power or what it grants them. And I'll say this in closing.
Yeah, we keep saying that, man. We got so much to talk about. Points are coming in my mind right now. I'm thinking about judges and the way they think when they get pulled over. But anyway, go ahead.
We definitely got to revisit. What I've recognized with the power complex in policing is that this is the only profession that I've seen where you are forced to respect someone who isn't necessarily a respectable person. Meaning, I can be an officer, but because I'm wearing the uniform, I command respect. I demand it, even if I'm not a respectable person.
Right.
The uniform affords me that unwavering leverage over citizens, that I can walk through places and you have to submit to my authority, even if I'm not a worthy person to submit to.
Damn, that's a deep point, brother.
You get what I'm saying?
That's fire.
So,
man, let's talk again, man. I'll reach out to you because I know we're running real long here. I mean, it's a good one when you still don't want to end it when you know you need to.
Don't want to end it.
Bless you. Bless everybody that watched this broadcast. Thank you for the support. Please continue to support both channels.
Yes.
And let's grow together and stay on it, man. Stay in the fight. And sometimes it's hard to keep producing stuff and stay motivated, especially when you're making $2 a month or whatever,
All right.
but do it. Just do it, man. Just stay in it. I'll stay with you if you stay with me, and
Absolutely, bro. Let's do it.
Let's do something every once in a while, and give fresh content, relevant content to people.
Yes.
And hold people accountable, and hopefully it grows. But if not, at least we'll do our part.
No, absolutely, man. I my plan is to work with a lot of the local leaders here in Georgia, start a pilot program with some of these reform ideas I put together. One that I'm definitely pushing is a third-party citizen review council with subpoena powers. And so that is a big thing. And we need a place to start. The whole thing is we need a city to start, to where we can build a platform off of and say, hey, we did it here in Atlanta. Let's duplicate this. The people need to know what to ask for and what to demand from their politicians. And I think this is the problem. When you don't know what to ask for, you put the onus and responsibility on people who don't know the problem truly, and they're going to give you trinkets or symbolism, and ultimately it doesn't even address the issue at all. They need people who know what's going on, understand it, to give real solutions that will have real impact over time. And I believe that just sparking the idea and implementing an idea so that other people can see how it's supposed to look could create a chain reaction. And that's my vision.
Here's the key to make that work. That just my input on that is, when you encounter resistance, which you will do, expose that resistance. Use your platform, use other people, use my platform, send me the video, send me whatever you got, I'll put it out there. But expose the resistance. Because you're going to find people that, I don't like that. And they're going to put roadblocks. Anytime they're going to lose that grip of the way they do things today that they want to hold on to so dearly, they were going to put up roadblocks to stop that change. And if you're trying to enact change, you have to expose the roadblocks to bring light to those roadblocks to help break them down. Because if they're allowed to operate in secret, as I say, like quiet, they have power. If you put the light on them and you go, hey, look, this person is stopping this new this idea from going forward about police accountability. This is the person right here. Here's their phone number. Here's the address. Here's their name. No secret. They oppose this. They do in politics all the time. So-and-so didn't sign this bill. They oppose Bill 55 or whatever they do. They put them on blast. You put them on blast. So if you find people that are stopping something that's good, put them on blast. Send them over to my channel and I'll put them on blast. All my videos, I put the phone number in there. I say, call them. A lot of people don't do that. Not me. I say, this is their name. Here's their phone number. If you don't like what you've seen, call them. Because I'm all about that accountability, and I mean it. I don't care if they don't like it or if they sue me or come up with some way to try to retaliate against me for putting it out there like that. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If I expose you, I'm putting you all the way out there. I'm putting your name, department, everything, phone number. Here you go. Because I'm holding you accountable. Our power is in the media that we're doing right now.
Absolutely.
This is where the power starts coming in. So don't let them take it from you. Use it to your advantage, brother.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, hallelujah. Well, we're going to go ahead and cut this off, man. I certainly appreciate you putting me on here. Everybody, once again, I know we said it's 10 times, but I think we're done now.
We're done.
Right on, man.
I appreciate you, brother. Tell the people where they can find you, man, and where to support, and I'll throw the links back up there as well.
Yeah, you guys can check us out on YouTube and all other major social media. We're Prove All Things with an S, Audits with an S. So Prove All Things Audits. We appreciate all the support. And if you have any stories or tips that you want me to investigate, you can send it to Shannon at proveallthingsaudits.com. Did I get that wrong with it? I think that's my email. I think it is. I'm sorry. But it's actually, you can send it to, proveallthingsaudits@gmail.com. So if you guys have any tips or anything like that, send it to proveallthingsaudits@gmail.com and I'll look into it. And if it's newsworthy, I will do an investigation. That's actually, I found out about Cardi B, is somebody gave me a tip about that situation, and that's how I ended up there. So I will follow up on good stuff. So there you go.
What's up? I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for your time.
Bless you. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom. Woo! That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm. Another round of applause. Woo! I'm not gonna do you like we did last night, you guys. I'm not gonna do you like we was up here for 5 hours. It got a little dicey towards the end. But this is what it's about, you guys. This is what the channel is about. Networking with people who are doing the work and coming up with solutions that can be implemented. And again, listen, and I say this all the time, the police problem is an American problem. Black people, we have a unique problem with policing that needs to also be addressed. We're going to address it. But what I like about what he said was there are things that you can implement that would immediately start impacting 70 to 80% of the problems. You know, it's a win-win for everybody. Everybody. And that's the type of conversations I like to have. At the end of the day, you can fix these other nuanced issues by fixing this issue. And this is a solution that we can all galvanize around. And then once I finish putting all the details together, I'm going to start sending this information out to different activists, different political groups, and say, this is the type of police reform that we're asking for. This is what the people are asking for. Let's implement this. This is better than any of these little bills you guys can create up over at the Puzzle Palace. All that stuff is irrelevant. If we fix this right here, you're talking about eliminating 70 or 80% of the problem with policing. Transparency, not just any transparency, third-party transparency, where you can have a civilian group organization that's in charge of, maybe we could say, the state. They're in charge of the state. Every state has their state investigative department. In Georgia, we have what we call the GBI. They're essentially like the FBI of the state. Every state has one. Well, every state needs to have what? An independent source or organization that's used to investigate misconduct from law enforcement agencies in that state. This would be equivalent to the DOJ of the state, right? And it's ran by professionals, citizens who are trained and paid to examine complaints. You can go to file complaints here and you know that it's going to be taken seriously. So, of course, there's going to be some operational nuances that need to be addressed, like how does it work, blah, blah, blah. How to filter out some complaints over others. There are some complaints that probably should be sent to the department on a department level, some that need to be sent to the organization. Those would be more so, I would say, civil complaints where you feel like there's a civil violation. Your civil rights have been violated. A level of complaint where you're complaining the officer committed a crime against you, a criminal violation against your person. That would be an officer that excessive force. Well, that kind of falls under the violation of your fourth. Or they planted evidence, or you're a drug dealer and they stole your drugs, right? So you don't want to give that complaint to the police department to investigate. You want to take that to the state organized citizen review board to look at. And they should have subpoena powers over the police department. Meaning what? If I need to demand an officer's presence, if I need to demand open records, I should be able to get body cam footage, reports, hands down, no questions asked. I have direct access to any officer I need to question or investigate. And we have our own private investigators that can investigate along with the department to gather information. So why is that important? It builds trust, rebuilds trust, and it gives the citizens confidence that their voice matters. especially you guys, when they're dealing with a department full of tyrants. Like, don't get it twisted. I love cops. I love good ones, but I'm no fool. I know that there are bad police officers. I know there's bad police departments. No one has never said, I've never said that on this channel. I tell people all the time, people say, are you pro cop? I'm pro justice. I'm pro justice. There's a difference. There's a difference. But it is a good start, and these are actual good solutions that are they're realistic. I like when people bring realistic solutions. When I come up with reform ideas, you guys, they're realistic. You know, it's not get rid of all the police. It's not get all the guns from the police. It's not remove all policing. It's we're talking about realistic solutions, you know. So shout out to Travel and Work. It says great stream. Thank you. No, thank you. And thank everyone tonight showing up. Thank you, my amazing moderators. Or moderator tonight. Thank you to the members. You guys. Shout out to Miss Watchman. I see you in the building, my dear. It's good to see you. Hope you've been doing well. There are some realistic changes that can be implemented. I think Shannon brought up a good point about the pushback. People push back because it interferes with their pocket. Corruption is very profitable, you guys. They don't want this thing fixed. They don't want it fixed. The less eyes, the more foolishness I can get away with. But the responsibility is on the people to make them do better. We have to make them do better. All I'm saying, all Shannon is saying is we can give you the information. We can even tell you what tools you need and what you need to do. But you guys, we still have to do the work. We have to demand the change and then command the excellence from these people. That's why they're in these positions in the first place. And the only power they have is a power that we give them. And a lot of times we forget that. And so the purpose of my channel is to really bring these conversations to a more realistic view. And let's have an honest discussion about police reform, what it looks like. And not only that, how to get it done. I can tell you what you need to do. I can tell you what you need to fight for. But y'all gonna have to go and fight for it. You know what I'm saying? You got to go and do it. So when we are demanding our local politicians and we're saying this is what we want, I'm gonna put it all together for y'all. And the plan is to give it to everybody. And this is what we need to start asking for. And it's important to have something and somewhere where it's been done to where we can say, hey, it's been piloted here in Atlanta. Let's see if we can duplicate this. Let's see if we can duplicate this in other cities. And you guys, this is a piece that matters. This is why I was so excited to have Shannon over here to have this discussion. And you can hear it. So salute you before the building. Shout out to you, brother. I see you in the building. So yeah, you guys, listen, I hope that you enjoyed this conversation. I hope you found it to be insightful. And I plan on breaking down some of his videos. I wanted to introduce him to the channel because I really want to work a lot more with him. As you guys see, we're definitely going to be doing more collaborations. At the end of the day, you just have good people who want this thing done properly. That's all I want. Utilizing my experience to make that happen. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. We can complain about stuff or we can do something about it. And I'm always in the business of doing something about it. So with that being said, you guys, when I know a lot of our followers, they be catching the restream. Put your comments, your questions in the comment section. If you guys, after watching this, if you have questions for both of us, definitely direct it to him. We'll definitely answer whatever we can in the in the chat. I mean, in the comment section. Please check it out. Please check out the new merch. I will be doing some modeling sessions. We got the mugs, facts over feelings, because you know how we do over here. We care about the facts, and we don't mind listening to your feelings. But then we're gonna move on. We're gonna hear what you got to say, but we're not gonna hold no weight to it, right? We do the facts over here, you guys. Other than that, this was an amazing stream. Questions, comments, concerns, throw them in the comment section. We're out of here. 3 hours and 30 minutes. I did it, you guys. I did it. I kept it under 4 hours. So I feel good. With that being said, you guys, let these truths find you where the lies have left you. Good night and God bless.